Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, to today's stream where I have my esteemed guest, Casey, better known as Red Beard Rants, who's going to join us to talk about intercultural dating topics, the importance of Instagram, and how to really level up your social game. First and foremost, Casey, how about you give my guys an introduction? Let us know where you're at, what got you kind of started in the space, and start diving into your Genesis story.
Sure. Yeah. So around 14, 15, 16, the balls start to drop. You start to say, damn, those girls, they look like I want to touch them, they look fun to touch. As the hormones go out of control. And I did the first thing that many guys probably do, which is go to Google and start searching away how to pick up women, how to attract women, things like that. Eventually I landed on this free audio from a guy named RSD Tyler, or Owen Cook, as he's known as Owen Cook is his real name. RSD Tyler is his name in the community, Real Social Dynamics. Anybody who's ever been exposed to anything related to pickup knows who that is.
They were everywhere.
Yeah. Yep. He's basically the godfather of it all, started it all. Good friend of mine. He still sends me 7-8 minute audio messages on WhatsApp. Became good friends with him, but that was further along. So I started, going on the Real Social Dynamics forums, learning from all different types of, pickup artists on these forums. Back then, this is before, Facebook groups, and before this was before YouTube, period. Certainly before any pickup was on YouTube. Long story short, I met those guys, befriended those guys, learned from those guys, all the original RSD coaches. I dedicated the first, 8, 9, 10 X years of my life doing in-person picking up of women, traditionally at wherever, the grocery store, bars, nightclubs, restaurants, college campuses. And then I started to notice that dating, especially for really, really high quality women, was, for better or worse, we can talk about this, was evolving from more of a in-person pursuit to a more online pursuit. And you remember this, the early days of Instagram, the only girls that would show up on your feed and the first adopters were all like fitness chicks. Remember that?
Yeah, it was definitely a fitness platform. That's when I started really getting into fitness.
Yeah. It was all like a fitness platform. All the hottest girls were on there. All the original Instagram, something cherry, I forget their names, but there was like a few, super popular ones. And I became a club promoter in Los Angeles, a really bougie club called One Oak, which is, you see celebrities there. You would see The Weeknd, you would see Drake, Leonardo. I've been 10 feet away from not every, but, a lot of A-list celebrities you could name. Like I just said, Drake, J. Cole, Leonardo DiCaprio, people of that caliber. And I did all the recruitment for those girls on Instagram. And, I definitely got laid a lot, but it was more of just leveraging them to come to the club to then, have girls at my table. I would make a little bit of money. I would, meet these girls and stuff like that, but I would still mostly use them as a recruitment activity for the club promoting. And then it was around 2020 where I started really getting into the online game and started approaching it like a science, started approaching it like a digital marketer. Building my Instagram like a sales page, testing all types of photos, editing my face, with WhatsApp and stuff. I do weird experiments where I have a guy with all tattoos and then Photoshop remove the tattoos and then put them into a website called photofueler.com and see how the women would rate this guy. This is like a real service just to kind of see. I would, screenshot other guys' photos from Tinder, pretending to be a woman on there. I've had a catfish female account. I'd just screenshot guys. I'd put them all into this Photo Fueler app and get, really wild ratings. Like guys I never would have thought would have been given a really high attractive score. This is, real women, for those who don't know, actually rate guys on this. And yeah, approach it like a science and learned a lot. Now I am, as you guys can tell, a very average looking dude. And maybe some of you guys don't know this. I could show all the receipts and proof in the world. It's on my channel as well, where I show this off, Red Beard Rants, of me dating 9s and 10s just all day long. I have terabytes and upon terabytes of me partying, making out with, and doing other stuff with 9s and 10s that my mom told me not to talk about.
Yeah, that's definitely funny. I went through kind of a similar process to where never really understood the power of social before, but I'm a marketing consultant by trade. So I actually, years ago, when I was still living in Southern California, had a roommate. He was a young San Diego Chad surfer type, had girls driving in from multiple states, literally just a steady rotation of girls coming in, driving expansive distances to see him, hook up with him, spend the night, and then just go home. And I learned a lot from him, and he broke down the whole Instagram thing to me. And he'd never really been in the dating space before per se. He was just kind of a Gen Z younger type kid, and they just grew up with this stuff and just kind of knew intuitively how it works. But that's the first time I made a concerted effort to really upgrade the level and caliber of my Instagram. Previous to that, it was more so as Instagram started coming out, I kind of made fun of it. It's like, oh, do it for the gram, post it for the gram, go to music festivals and girls be lined up for photos and say things like, well, if it's not posted on Instagram, did it really happen? And then I discovered the power of Instagram. And now I don't put as much effort into it as I should. I think a lot of stuff that's there is stuff that I've done in the past. I probably could take my Instagram to the next level. But I always tell guys, it's like the heavy artillery when it comes to online dating. Yeah, I use the dating apps to source more top of the funnel leads, but when they come through my Instagram, it does most of the heavy hitting for me. And then I just have to kind of sit back and watch inbound DMs come through, which is really, really nice, because it sounds like you did something similar to where I created a system or a structure to where I really don't have to put much time or effort into it. I just constantly have options, and then it just depends on when I'm free or when I want to entertain those options.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with a lot of things. I had a lot of things I wanted to comment on. One is going out to bars, nightclubs. Let me just stress one thing. I am cold approach pickup. I'm not just a fan of it. I am the embody of it. Okay. I lived in Vegas and went out 7 nights a week for years with, the top guys. I would, then journal about this, break it down, teach it, think about it all day. I think the confidence and the social skills and just the fun adventures and really, kind of forges you into a man by throwing you into the fire, right? But as far as an actual ROI in your time, especially these days, it's kind of shit. Going out to do day game or night game, at a club is like working a 9-to-5 job, whereas having an attractive Instagram profile, I call it the high status profile, which we can talk about later what I mean by high status. That's like having passive income. That's like a rental property, a cash flow rental property that, sure, you got to drip feed, you got to get new photos every now and again, you got to post, feed the beast every now and again. But for the most part, you set it up once and it's done. It produces cash flow, it produces pussy flow. You got to send traffic to it. It's not like you set it up, but we can talk about, what I mean by send traffic to it.
Yeah, we can go ahead and start going in that direction too. So I do like the fact that you emphasize the importance of online. I used to be of that mindset too, of like, okay, online's kind of cheating. And I was never really a day gamer guy. I took my career real seriously when I was younger. I kind of became a workaholic for a while to where I didn't have a lot of free time to really invest in my social life. Never really liked bars or nightclubs or things of that nature, but I always had really cool social groups. So when I do go out and partake in those activities, I could always be kind of a social butterfly. It's mostly situational. I'm more of an introvert, but when I go out, people always tell me like, wow, you're the life of the party. It's like, well, yeah, I kind of mentally planned for that. And I look forward to those types of things. And by virtue of that, naturally I get attention from women, and then they eventually start coming through the pipeline and convert throughout the process. But the online thing, again, being a digital marketer by trade at the corporate level, I didn't even realize I was doing it. I just realized that, okay, I'm starting to get more matches. Obviously, if you have better photos on Tinder, you're going to get better matches. Obviously, if you set it up like a funnel, then they will start flowing through. And then I went through a period where I started reducing the inefficiencies. Like, okay, I don't need to have this many text messages. I just need to get her off the app and then get her to my WhatsApp and or Instagram. If she goes to Instagram, I consider that a lead nurture activity. So I'll just drip market her posts and stories. And especially when other girls tag me in their stories, which happens pretty much every time I go out, then that does a lot of conversion for me. If it's to straight to WhatsApp, then it's more kind of logistics phase. Hey, she's further down the funnel. Now it's time to just set things up, schedule her, make sure that you have the follow-up sequences, confirmation sequences, get her in the Uber. I found that a lot of times the flake point for me a lot of times is when she's actually about ready to get in the Uber. If the driver takes too long to find her, if it starts raining, or if she has already kind of cold feet and that's not a smooth transition for you to get her to your place, then that could be a potential bottleneck or a fall off point. So I dug into it from more of a scientific lens also, and then really just ironed out all of the inefficiencies, which works really well for me. I still supplement that with day game and night game and social game when I'm in those environments, but I'm working most of the time. And a lot of times I don't want to dedicate or allocate mental energy, time, or resources to got to go out and source women. I have other interests that have nothing to do with dating, but by virtue of inserting myself in those interests and becoming proficient or competent at those and expanding my social circle, that supplements my online game quite nicely. But I tell my guys a lot of times, oh, why would I do the online thing? We live in the 21st century in the digital world. At some point it's going to be digital. Even if you cold approach her, you have to know how to do text game. You have to have a decent Instagram. There's no way around it. She's going to do her research, her 007 spy kit. She's going to pull it out and then dive into, okay, who is this guy? Who is this person who is unknown, who's an avatar, pixels on a screen? Who am I really getting involved with? And again, once you get the Instagram down, it really does a lot of your work for you.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. You said use it as like a lead nurture. Yeah. Here's the thing. When you would cold approach a girl, very often there you would have really kick-ass cool things going on in your life, or really cool personality traits you'd want to show off, but you can't just say those, or you can't be talking to a girl be like, yeah, I like those shoes. Those are red bottoms. Yeah, nice shoes. Anyway, I spoke on stage at a conference to a room full of 250 people last weekend. That's really lame. That's try hard. That's seeking validation. That's qualifying yourself to the girl. That's going to kill attraction. But Instagram is a flexing app. So you said it really good, supplementing your cold approach stuff. Maybe what I should be doing more of, I don't know, I feel like in Brazil, it's different, especially as a foreigner. And there's some difficulties doing cold approach in a second language, but maybe I should still try to supplement it in. But even getting a quick Instagram on the streets can take you from, that was a little bit weird, but I guess it was kind of cute and endearing, that random guy that approached me. I got his Instagram.
Who's this guy?
Yeah, who's this guy? And then you're allowed to flex, right? If you were ever in a helicopter, it should be on your Instagram. If you were ever speaking like, me, on a stage in front of a room full of people, if you're ever in a limousine, if you ever accepted an award, if you ever played a musical instrument in front of a room full of people, if you ever threw a private event or party or had access to an exclusive party, anything fucking dope or badass that you did belongs on there. It's a flexing app. It's supposed to be there. It's no longer a try hard thing. And you go from this random guy on the streets, and I'll kick it up a notch too. This is something that I'm teaching. You heard it here first. This is something that probably everybody ripped off from me at some point, but I own the trademark to it as of now, which is what I call charming video content. So this is my way of kind of creating, I guess you would say, like a marriage between the two, between, purely digital and in person, because in person is in person. She can feel your vibe. She can see your eye contact. She can hear the charisma in your voice, how you pronounce things, your subtle charisma, your subtleties and stuff like that. And digital, they can't, right? At least traditionally. So what I do is on my Instagram, pinned to the top are these 15 to 30 second videos. They're like little shorts, little vertical Instagram reels, little shorts of me doing something charming. Now, in my case, I usually use humor, but charming content doesn't have to be humor. So for instance, I have this one video, it's just a selfie video. It's just me, with my cell phone just in front of a window, in front of good lighting that I recorded one day. And I'm saying something to the effect of, hey, I won't hold my phone up, I'm saying it in my phone. I'm like, hey guys, just so you know, the unfortunate reality is you are going to get older. You are going to die one day. So be sure to spend every precious moment of life you have on this earth just scrolling on your phone as much as possible, because, the truth is, can't take your phone with you when you die. So something like that. Or I'll say like, hey, something that really helps me feel better when I'm stressed out, I'm just feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders, is I go online and I just argue with somebody in the comments, because just think about it. Like,
it sounds ridiculous when you say it's obviously satire.
Yeah, and I'll have like this like corny, like cheesy, motivational music playing. And there's a lot of other things. What I'm doing now is like, I haven't recorded this yet, but I'm going to be sitting on the couch. It's just going to be, and again, these are all super easy. I don't teach this or recommend anything that would be difficult for clients to edit. The goal isn't to become an influencer, but you can set up your phone on a tripod. A tripod costs what, $20, $30 on Amazon at the most. And hit record, and I guess you may have to send it to an editor if you have no idea what you're doing, but you can get someone to edit it for like $10. And it's a 15-second skit where I go, hey, Alexa, what's the weather like today? And then the voice goes, Alexa, who is Alexa? Oh, I'm sorry, Siri. How's the weather today, Siri? No, tell me, who's Alexa? No, just forget about it. Can you just tell me the weather, please, Siri? My bad. No, ask that bitch Alexa what the fucking weather is like today.
That's funny. That little skit went through my head recently too, because I always screw them up. You have all these AI enabled devices around the house, and you'll call them by the wrong name. Although even with girls, I give them all nicknames now, and they're all kind of just the same nickname, like Bella, Linda, Nena, Hermosa, like whatever. They all call me Bebe, which I do like the idea of the charming content. I came across your Instagram, and I think you have a free Instagram blueprint there, and I saw you mention that. I've been doing that for years unintentionally, not knowing that was a thing. It was more so that during COVID, I played music for a bit when I was a kid, but never got into it. During COVID, had all this free time. I was like, and I could never sing and play when I was younger, and then all of a sudden I can. So it's like, all right, I'll start singing too, and I'll just kind of put it out there and see what people think. And turns out it's deeply ingrained in their culture. For the Latinas, they love serenades. Now, American women, you'll see the memes go around. Oh, I went on a first date. Dude tried to DJ. Oh, even worse, he pulled out a guitar, which is foreign to me, although I'm a foreigner in Mexico technically, because not only do girls here like it, but they'll request it. I had a girl come over 2 nights ago. She's a pianist and she does some music production. She came over and wanted me to just play a private set for her. I'm like, okay, yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. And it works really nicely in game, because that's a point without being, I guess, beta, for lack of a better term. I can really emote. I can take her on a roller coaster. I can give her highs and lows and crescendos and diminutions. I'm trying, that Spanish word popped in my head because I study music in Spanish. But you can take her through that experience, and it's not overt. It's actually very subtle, and it is kind of a low key flex. Hey, you asked to come over and get a serenade. Okay, I'll give you a serenade. And then you can just see her falling in love with you in the moment. And then when it's time, with this one in particular, I think she was kind of hesitant at first. She wanted to be more of kind of like an artistic relationship. It's like, yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. But afterwards, she was ready to go. Usually by song 2 or 3 in a private serenade, she's ready to take things to the next level if there's any hesitation.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. So I keep repeating that. You are hitting the nail on the head.
I know I have those clutch words too, or the phrases that I use also when I watch myself on playback.
Because you're on point. Because remember, I just said charming content doesn't have to be funny. So that is extremely charming, especially like you said in Latin America. Music is just one of these things. Artists, musicians. It's always something I wish I was talented in. Of all my many talents, music is not one I'm naturally gifted with. So I was never like the guy who could, sing or dance or anything like that. But I always noticed that generally, I guess there are the few, women who don't like it because it's, cringe on a date. But I always noticed it was something super powerful and, inherently romantic, and just another way for you to show off something for, personality wise, right? And the reason why this charming content, be it funny or be it you playing music, could be a lot of things. Could be you giving a speech or winning a martial arts tournament. It could be all these things, but it allows the woman to experience your personality now. So remember when I talked about sending a lot of volume, you have to build this, high status profile. This is really, curate this good Instagram, which we can talk about more about what that means. But, when I started making this, this charming video content and putting it to the top, my virtual assistant who follows 20 completely random women a day. This is a woman that I pay $5 an hour to. She's logged into my Instagram and she's liking photos and following girls every single day, about 20 of them, keeping it in a spreadsheet, like real nerd shit, a CRM, like a database. And
I do that too. I have a rudimentary CRM. It's all spreadsheets. I track everything.
Nice.
Yeah, it's funny.
It doubled the probability that a random woman would follow me. So when I had these images on there, again, you can see an image of me. Am I Russian? Am I German? Am I American? Do I speak English? Si yo hablo español? Si yo posso falar portugués? Like, you don't know what language I speak. Am I a weirdo? Am I on the spectrum? Do I have a cool comedic timing and charismatic delivery? And like I said, it's a good, and especially for guys like me who are, you're I guess more on the Chad spectrum than I am. But if you're just a completely random looking schmuck like I am, who refuses to date anything less than like an 8.5, then it's really powerful because you're using personality for attraction rather than just relying on your perfectly symmetrical, gorgeous face, which I clearly don't have.
Yeah, that is a good point. I think it's that old moniker where game really trumps all, which I was a lot more attractive when I was younger, but really the personality wasn't fully developed yet. A lot of guys do this too. I kind of held myself back. So I'm kind of an academic and a nerd at heart. And I fell into the always cool all the time bravado, which I got a lot of from the red pill stuff, or always alpha all the time is what I call it, or too cool for school. I see a lot of guys that are new to game when I go out. They kind of have that same vibe. They're trying to AMOG you, which is, what is that, alpha male of the group or whatever. All that stuff's really annoying. But when you're new, people recognize that stuff. But it took me a while to come into myself. But in terms of, I do like the idea of the charming content. And I always advocate guys showcase various facets of their personality. So a lot of guys are unidimensional. Again, going back to the too cool for school, like I always have to be macho. I always have to be cool. And people can see right through that. For me, yeah, I can be real cool in social situations. I can be an asshole when it's warranted. I can be very charming when it's warranted. I can be very sweet when it's warranted. And I can flip that switch immediately. And you've probably seen this too. You're out with a girl and you're having a good time, you're vibing, and someone gets a little aggressive towards you. And you're like, oh, hold on real quick. Like, hey, bro, what's up? Like, can I help you with something? Like, you've been hovering around the table for a while. Is there an issue? Is there a beef? Like, you having a bad day? Do you need a beer? What's the deal? Okay, cool. Yeah, just keep it over there. If you want to come at me right, then you can go ahead and do that. And then go right back to your girl. I'm like, all right, what were we talking about, sweetheart? You can see in their eyes when you're able to go into serious mode and then step out and go into playful mode and then be able to have that emotional intelligence. And I think Instagram it's a purely visual app to where you can demonstrate the multiple facets of your personality. I think for mine, I have the fitness angle. I have a couple gun range ones. I have some with a lot of girls thought I kind of have an F-boy profile. So I was like, okay, I need to put some sweet photos, me playing with my niece and nephew or me with my family. I know a lot of guys say maybe don't do that stuff, but I think for a while my Instagram was too curated to where it actually worked against me because girls like, okay, he's not a real guy or he's just this giant fuck boy. It's like, no. I want to show multiple aspects of my personality because I am a dynamic human being, as all of us are.
Yeah, and you can showcase different elements of your life, different facets, and the girl can kind of latch onto the ones that she likes. So if you have an image of you, you can have one photo of you on a Harley Davidson motorcycle wearing a leather jacket, right? And then the next photo could be, like you said, you playing with your niece or you rolling around with a puppy that's licking your face, and they can kind of, girls are very imaginative, right? They love to kind of create this. It is funny. Tell me if you experience this too. Women almost create a story of who you are based on your social media. Again, assuming It is really curated. And actually, if you want, I can show an example to your audience.
Yeah, you can do that. And I was just going to mention that. I call it leaving breadcrumbs. You don't like you said, you don't want to list off the resume like, all right, I got into a really good school and I lived in Mexico on scholarship and I played baseball down here and then I worked for a defense contractor and then I really ratcheted up my career success and then I had lived in a penthouse and I drove a Porsche. You don't want to do that. She'd be like, okay, dude, yeah, whatever. Especially in Latin America, it's a cultural thing. A lot of the Mexican guys do that. They'll come to me and be like, do you know who I am? And they're all shorter than me and they're all a lot smaller than me and they're puffing out their chest. I'm like, no, dude, like if you're someone worth knowing, I know who you are. I have no idea who you are. What are you doing here? Like get out of here. Or you can join the party and be cool, but you're coming at me with the wrong energy. So you definitely don't want to do that. But with Instagram, you can leave clues and you can leave breadcrumbs and then they'll fill in the detail. Again, it does most of your work for you if you curate it and set it up right.
Let me run and just turn my lights on for a second so I don't look like I'm floating around in this hedge floating around in the dark abyss. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Like a weird basement dweller. Yeah, in the meantime, guys, it usually takes a bit for people to start filing into these things, but if you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the live chat there. I have Professor Mex and the Roquera. I noticed you have a channel too. Reach out to me on Instagram. I don't know why it's not showing up on StreamYard because I configured it to do that. So probably a user error on my end. But my Instagram's at Jaron Scott. That's my personal one. My branded one is at Gringo Guides, no underscore spaces. Reach out to me or leave your contact info, and I'd be down to get on a stream. I'm trying to get more varied guests on here because otherwise the content game becomes a grind, and you realize how many ways can I say the same thing over and over so it's fresh. So I want to entertain new perspectives. QB Passport Flexing, definitely appreciate the support. We definitely have to do a live stream soon. If you haven't reached out or worked with Casey yet, QB, obviously by the name, is into the passport bro type space, for, again, lack of a better term. Sobriety University, get it, boys. He's actually right here. High five. Yep. All right. Yeah. So I think he said he'll jump on here towards the end. I think he had some questions for you. But that being said, I was curious when I came up through the red pill space, and I was one of Rich Cooper's top guys for years and years. And I got most of my followers come through me recurring weekly on his Saturday general shows. But I started getting labeled the passport bro, and I didn't even really know what that was. And then at first I thought it was kind of a derogatory term. Like, I'm not a passport bro. I lived in Mexico 20 years ago before Google existed. So like, I'm not a passport bro. I'm an OG. But now I'm starting to embrace it. I'm like, all right, there's some cool guys in this space. They're guys that are realizing that, hey, geo arbitrage, whether it be financially or dating wise, it is the key to success. I can work a lot less hard, and I don't make as much money, but I have more money, and I have more time, and I have more freedom, and I have more dating options by just going south of the border. It's just a quick direct flight away, and here I am. And I live the same exact lifestyle I did in California for a fraction of the budget, which allows me to explore other things like music and fitness and travel more. And I'm getting more into the culinary arts. It allows me to develop myself more as a person rather than just grind just to afford my California lifestyle. So now I embrace the passport bros label, I guess, so to speak. So I'm curious if you would consider yourself a passport bro, or what your take is on that topic in general.
Yeah, it's funny how people try to change definitions of things. Like some people think that red pill means angry incels on the internet or something like that. When Morpheus gave Neo the option for the blue pill or the red pill was the truth. The blue pill was go back to sleep, live in the matrix, think what you want to think. Everything will be kind of this fairy tale land where, whatever, you're not even living in your real reality. And the red pill is the truth. Like, I will show you the motherfucking truth, but like, you better be ready for it. So I just see the red pill as like the truth. And, Passport Bros, similar thing, has kind of gone down a negative, connotation of like maybe guys who couldn't get laid in their home country. Some people think it's like only black guys are like passport bros. Like the passport bro movement was started by black guys.
I noticed a lot of the content creators are, which I love you guys because you're putting me in front of your audiences, and we're having really good conversations too. But I don't think it's a black versus white thing. I think, like you said, it's guys that they just want the truth. Like, hey, I'm not living a happy, healthy life where I'm at. I fell into all of society's prescribed notions of what should make a man successful, of what should make a man happy. And my coaching clients say this all the time. I did everything right, and it's not working. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, now it's time to throw out the old playbook and let's start creating a new one for you. One that you have put together. So success is defined by your terms, not by society's terms. And that is a radical way of thinking. I've redone that mindset. I'm going to like year 10 now since I found these types of spaces. And for me, it's just my normal life, but I have to remind myself, or even my friends in my close inner circle, that we're radicals. No one, it's still relatively new to do what it is we're doing.
Mm-hmm. It's becoming more of a mainstream thing. Yes, I do affectionately refer to myself as a passport bro. And this is something I want to clarify too. A lot of countries that we go to, how tall are you, by the way? You're like 6'1", 6'2"?
I'm 5'11", but in the metric system, I'm 180 centimeters, which I don't know if you've seen that in Brazil. That is their equivalent of 6 foot. The girls that do put it in the profile must be 180 centimeters. I'm exactly 180 cm.
So we're exactly the same height, and we're both 180 centimeters. So there are places where we can go to where we're going to be way taller than all the guys there, way more masculine than the other guys there. You certainly, but even me with my
broader shoulders,
arms,
more developed physique.
Even with that little baby bicep, I'm still going to be buffer than all the other guys there. Make more money than them, whatever. There's a lot of places on earth like Colombia, Medellin. The locals are like a joke for them to compete with, like even a very average gringo back home, much less the average gringo passport bro, because the passport bros tend to be entrepreneurial, tall, good looking, make a lot of money, etc. There's actually two different archetypes we don't need to go into, but anyway, at least the cool young passport bros who got pussy back home.
They're like tech bros abroad. That's my social circle. But there are the type, I've ran into them more so at like tourist resorts where guys are, hey, do you know where I can go find the best women to pay for? I was like, dude, you're at an adults only resort in Cancun. They're everywhere. Like it's impossible to not get laid. What? Again, upgrade your mindset there. But I was really drawn to your channel. Actually, a couple of guys in my private groups, your name started going around. I was like, all right, I'll check out this guy. One of my followers, I think, left a comment on one of my videos like, hey, you should definitely collab with Red Beard Rants. I'm like, all right, I'll check you out. And I think your first video was why I left Medellin. And you make some pretty ballsy declarations. I don't think I'm as overt with, like, we are better than the locals, but I walk around with that in my head because I have two eyes connected to a fucking brain. I can look around. You get narrow shoulders, skinny guys with fat bellies. A lot of them have drinking problems. A lot of them, the whole machismo thing, but they take it to the whole next level where they're really aggressive and not in a good way with their girls. They don't have a lot of money. They just have a lot of issues.
Personality, very effeminate personality.
Yeah. The old school Mexican guys used to not be that way. I grew up on a farm on the West Coast, and some of those migrant workers that came through, like the old alpha granddads, they were men, but a lot of the guys down here, they're, again, I always get the AMOG type Mexican guys. Do you know who I am? Like, no, dude. I'm in VIP and you have a general access because I can tell by the color of your wristband, and I'm here with 8 girls and you're here by yourself. So no, who are you? I don't care. You're obviously nobody, because if you were, you'd be sitting here at my table with me. So tell me again who you are. Again, I don't say these things directly, but in my head, I just kind of laugh at them. And I do tell my audience all the time, especially when you get to a certain level, and it doesn't have to be looks driven, income driven. It's just overall, when you take the aggregate of what constitutes a man, in my head, I don't have any competition. Sure, there's guys richer than me. Sure, there's guys better looking than me. Sure, there's guys more jacked than me. Sure, there's guys with nicer cars and more status with me. But guys that have it all, there's not many of them, and I have it all.
Yeah, you spend a certain number of years into self-development, and it just, it compounds on itself, right? And the average person is so into social media, worried about what people think of them.
Arguing with strangers in the comments.
Exactly. You just feel better if you argue with them.
What a productive day.
Completely, bogged down on mainstream media. And speaking of the mainstream media, going back to, the passport bros, a very common perception is that they couldn't get pussy in their own country, or they're only going there where, it's a lot easier. And sure, we do go because it's easier, but oftentimes here's why it's easier. Not just because I can go to a country where I'm taller than the other guys, I'm more jacked than the other guys, I make more money than the other guys, I'm more masculine than the other guys, not because of those things, which, a lot of the time it is, but that's back home too. I'm still more masculine and make more money and more jacked than even the pathetic dudes back home.
Yeah, I did well in California. Yeah. I get that a lot. I get that a lot too. You can't get laid in the US. I was like, dude, I went to LA a couple weeks ago. Yeah. I'm banging top girls in LA, Miami, New York. The hard cities are the easiest cities for me. Where I don't do well is my hometown. Little teeny tiny town where everyone knows everyone. All the girls are knocked up in high school. They're all single moms. They're all grossly overweight, stupid tattoos all over the place. And now I can still get with them, but it's actually harder to get those girls than the hot ones in LA, Miami, or New York. But the thing is, and the way I describe it is, in the US, I do very well, but it's much more effort on the front end for a lot less of a return. Yeah. I do roughly the same in Mexico as I do anywhere in the world, but for here, again, the competition is really non-existent for me, but the girls are so much higher quality too. So it's a win-win on both sides of that equation.
Well, here's another win too, is that if you were to put a group of women, you said in Tampa, or what's a random city? I don't know, Omaha, Nebraska, whatever. Did you say, hey, women
I was in Tampa recently. Those women are not that great there, and all the bars are the same: loud hip hop music, very aggressive men who get a little too drunk, have no spatial awareness, and like I don't even like going out to those environments.
Anyway, so to take a random city, I don't like those either. I hate clubbing, really yeah, and dumb low IQ people. But if you were to take the women and say, hey, go on Tinder in Tampa, and then now go on Tinder in Sao Paulo, Brazil, they would 10-1. Those women would tell you that the better looking guys, the more high status looking guys, are in Sao Paulo for sure. So why is it that if I was to change my location to Tampa, I would do much worse than I'm doing in Sao Paulo, Brazil, if my competition is so much higher? Well, that's only half the equation. Women in a lot of countries, when you get out of the West, are just quite simply not taught to hate men. That's literally it. That's what it is. It's not the fact that
they love us down here.
Well, yeah, just men, like not necessarily us Americans. Sure, there may be some gringo advantage. I'm not going to lie and sit here and say being a foreigner, in exotic land, it doesn't give some advantage. But I'm just talking about simply that they're just not taught and brainwashed by feminism to hate all men. A high tide raises all boats. A lot of people back home don't get that. When you're gaming a population of women that aren't taught, oh, girl, he got to be 6 feet, make minimum 500 grand a year. You got to be under 25, XYZ, add this on, characteristic. And it just, it all factors together and making just for a so much better dating life down here.
I think a lot of women back home too, they compare all other men against their top guys. So the numerous girls that have hooked up with Drake, or I've told the story. I've even dated girls back when I didn't understand the game as well. I dated a girl in Houston for a while, and she's like, "Oh, I used to date Houston Rockets basketball players." I'm like, "Well, you're just an average girl like me." In fact, I was actually better looking, again, made more money, objectively better across every measurable metric. I was like, "How are you hanging out with Houston Rockets players?" She's like, "Oh, I used to just drop them a line on Twitter at the time before it turned to X." And these girls can literally just slide into their DMs. These guys, they'll smash and pass them, and then, but in her head, it's like, okay, now I'm comparing all subsequent guys to that guy. Whereas girls down here, you'll get some of that. You'll get those with like the reggaeton girls, or kind of like some of the lower class girls. I'm assuming Brazil's the same way. Mexico has a very defined social class. So the higher class girls, they're not like, cool, dude, you're a DJ. Like, oh, you're a reggaeton wannabe rapper. Like, cool, bro. But it doesn't matter. You can be the top reggaeton guy, but you're still of a lower social class based on the way you dress, you act, the way you carry yourself, the type of company you keep. Yeah, you might have the millions of dollars, but in the US, it's like, oh, this guy's a rapper. This guy's a rapper. Oh, he's big all over social media. I was like, yeah, but he's still a loser. He's still a ghetto, low IQ person. I do. That reminded me. I like your videos. What do you call it? People unburdened by deep thoughts. I laughed so hard. There you go. Oh, I laughed so hard when I first heard that. It's hilarious.
The ultimate example of that. This is a true story that happened in Colombia. This is one of those only in Colombia stories. It's long story short, a guy is driving a gas truck down the freeway and he loses control. His car flips over.
Oh my God! Your video.
But like the guy's okay. So the people come from the tunnel like, dude, what happened? We heard this loud crash. He's like, oh my God, I flipped over. I fell out of the truck. Thank God, by a miracle, like I'm unscathed. But the car's sitting there in wreckage, that crazy thing that they're like, oh man, yeah, that's crazy. So what's in the truck? He goes, oh, bro, you're not going to believe it. Gasoline, of all things. I'm driving a gas truck. I can't believe I'm in one piece. It's America. They're like, gas truck, you say? Interesting. They leave. They come back with pickaxes, shovels, whatever they can find, bats, and they're hitting at this truck, trying to break it open so they can steal the gasoline. And you probably know how this story is going to end.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, I saw the video.
Spoiler alert. You're not supposed to agitate and smack and hit and pull engine parts and try to dissect a gas truck. You're not, in general, you don't move towards traffic accidents that involved a gas truck. You don't move towards traffic accidents, period. Much less when they involve a gas truck. Some genius tried to pull the battery out. It sparks, blow up. A bunch of people instantly killed, a lot more burned. And then, these people are being burnt to a crisp. You try to feel empathy. You try to feel sorry for them. But at the same time, you're like, you intentionally, through your own free will, thought it was a good idea to smack and start hitting at a guy. And it's a traffic accident, that generates sparks and heat and, bullshit. And of course, look what happened. But that's the definition of, it's an only in Colombia type story of being, unburdened by deep thoughts. That would not happen in very many other places. It's a very special human being to.
Yeah, you get that in some other Latin countries. I grew up, working on a farm. So during harvest season, we'd have hundreds of migrant workers come through, and they do little things like that, like, oh, I picked this extra box and you didn't pay me. And my grandparents are from Germany, so like I trust my German granddad, and PhD in agricultural finance, spent all of his life in academia, worked at state level government, and like all of local education in my home state came from his brain at one point. And then you have this migrant worker saying like, well, you didn't pay me right. I'm like, no, like, and even as a little kid, I know you're trying to get one over on us, but we have higher IQs. And every now and then, even in Mexico, that'll happen. Someone will try to get one over on you. It's like, you don't think that I see what you're doing from a million miles away? Like, do you really think you're going to get one over on me? Which is quite hilarious. But you are right. Colombia is a whole nother level. I've dated plenty of Colombian girls in the US and Mexico. I've been to Colombia a few times, and they literally have phrases in their regionalized variant of Spanish about ripping people off or being taken. What is it called? They use like papaya or like papaya. Yeah. It's built into their language, which should really give you insight into how they think and believe as a collective population.
Yeah, so the long and short of that video, and I've said this so many times, the reason why I left Medellin, Colombia, look, if you want to go in there and fornicate with a bunch of easy hoes, it's great for that. I don't, go into this or talk about this. I know you don't condone this, but if you want to, how should we say, prepay, it's amazing for prepaid. You want to get a prepaid SIM card or a prepaid anything.
Yep.
If you're willing to pay, they're willing to play. Basically, all of them. I even had buddies they would just go into Facebook. They search a random Paisa name, Paisa meaning somebody from Medellin. Yeah. Alexa, Daniela, Valentina, Valeria, and they would just like
for Natalia. Some reason they're all named Natalia.
Yeah. When you search into Facebook, and they put like Restrepo or some Munoz, some like whatever common last name, and it just really, the algorithm just shows you like the hot girls first. So you'd say like any Daniela living in Medellin and you search it and again, the algorithm will show the hot girls. They would just start adding them as friends and then message all them like, hey, random girl who has a common name, Alejandra, do you want to come over and I'll give you, $80, $90 or whatever. And he would have like an 80% close rate. And these aren't like quote unquote sex workers. These are just, women with a common name living in Medellin. And I got really tired of that. The girls that I'm dating in Brazil now, they know what ChatGPT is. They know basic history about, I don't know, the Roman Empire or something. I don't know. They have like, they could like, maybe put two Lego pieces together and to figure it out. After dating women like that, they're all clones that like in Medellin. Like, you spent any significant time down there or just a little bit?
I've gone twice. I dated a girl longer term in the US. That was my whole red pill origin story. I actually made the mistake of marrying a girl from Medellin that I met in Miami. Spoiler alert, I know you already know where this goes. She had a boyfriend in Colombia the whole time and a boyfriend in the city we lived in. And then any money I gave her, hey, go buy this to furnish the apartment. I'd come home like, hey, why didn't you get a new dish set? Why isn't this taken care of? All that money went to the boyfriend in Colombia. I think she even financed a trip to Miami, brought him up to go to Ultra together on my dime. So that was really sweet. So that opened my mind to this whole red pill kind of manosphere space, because I had lived in Mexico prior and played baseball down here. So I was the cock of the walk on campus. I had a big house off campus, had all of the best house parties because everyone here lives with their parents until they're married, especially 20 years ago. So I thought I was the man. It's like, all right, I know Latinas. And then I found myself in that situation. It's like, how the hell did I get into this? Those Medellin girls are a whole different level. They'll play the long game and string you along. Every now and then I'll date Colombian girls here in Mexico City. I've actually met some real cool ones, but it's definitely the exception and not the rule. You'll date them for a while, and then they'll start dropping little things like, you never give me gifts. you never do anything for me. It's like, what are you talking about? We went out every day of this weekend to nice restaurants. I took you to an event with high class people and introduced you to the who's who of Mexico City. What are you talking about? I don't do anything for you. Well, they're thinking in terms of monetary benefit, and being in Medellin's real annoying too, because again, like I don't ever advocate pay for play and it's not because of a moral thing. A lot of guys think that it's like, oh, Jaron's on his high horse. It's because I have so much experience with so many different girls that it doesn't do it for me. Like for a girl, okay, give me whatever the dollar amount is, and then I'll have physical intimacy with you. That doesn't turn me on. I can't do that. Like I need that back and forth, that seductive dance. And in Medellin, you'll think you get it. You'll literally go out to a club and dance with a girl all night, and then you'll buy drinks and jokes and banter, and then just run your normal game sequence. And like, all right, cool. This chick's totally into me. You go for the poll, and it's like $100. You're like, what are you talking about? This is not one of those situations. This is a normal. We met and we're vibing each other and there's chemistry, and now we're taking it to the next logical step. That's never happened to me in Mexico with a Mexican girl, to where you meet a girl and you're vibing her and attraction's high and things are just kind of progressing. And oh yeah, by the way, you have to pay for it. And the very few times that's happened in Mexico is always with a girl from Colombia, more specifically Medellin. I've dated a couple of girls from Bogota who are real cool here.
Yeah,
but,
Bogota,
the Medellin girls.
Bogota's a different animal. So yeah, one time me and my brother were like, not my brother, my friend, my bro, we were, my blood brother, we were talking about, just like kind of recapping this, like, okay, let's just think of like roughly as far back as you can think, the last 10 to 15 girls you dated over, extending the last, like, month and a half, 2 months, whatever it is, like what percentage of them have either been on OnlyFans or
guys, leave your questions. We'll get to them here in a second.
Been on OnlyFans, or in some way either, directly asked you for money, one of those two. Either you found out their webcam model, OnlyFans girl, and or they directly asked you for money. We both came to the conclusion it was like 12 or 13 out of the last 15 or so, call it 80-90% roughly. And I just got, again, so I would be in what you might call like wifey mode. Now, for me, wifey mode is a bit different because every girl that I've ever dated, and maybe I've just been lucky, like I'll probably strike out with the next one, just whatever God's way of slapping me, humbling me. But every girl, as of now that I've, said, hey, listen, the way it's going to work is the relationship's going to be open for me, closed for you. We're going to have these rules and regulations. Like I'll never post the other girl on my social media. I will only date them for very short periods of time. I'll always wear a condom. They'll never sleep over. I'll never introduce them to my family. A few other things, always wear a condom with them, a few other things. But other than that, like I'm going to go out and smash other girls and you're not going to do fucking shit. And they all,
that's
like,
the model I run too.
Yeah. And without too much like pushback at all. It wasn't even like a hard set. They were just kind of like, they just kind of get it.
Some of my girls have encouraged it. My last main girl is from Bogota. She would literally introduce me to her girlfriends as her macho or her alpha, and she would encourage her friends to hook up with me.
Wow.
But same thing, can't publicly post other girls. Don't embarrass her. Don't bring girls into her bed because they get territorial. But in terms of like, hey, look at this man I landed. You can have a sample of him, but you can't have him.
This is your girl or your ex?
No, this was my former main girl.
So she's single now. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, she started. She started getting to the point where I just actually recorded a video before coming on here. Like the things you have to understand when you're dating Latinas, that they'll fall in love fast. So she started off with the like open to 3 ways and into voyeurism and liked me being with other girls, and then eventually started getting deeper emotions to where she wanted to put me in the 2-way monogamy model. I was like, no. You've been my main girl for so long because you're always cool with this stuff. You can't go back and welch on your deal now that you're catching emotions or that you want different things in life. It's not going to work that way. And she started creating drama. So I started distancing myself from her, and that created more distance. We had a couple of times where she'd come over and hook up or whatever. And then other girls in the rotation, they'll notice that there's that vacancy, and then they'll really start rallying to fill that place. So that's essentially what happened. She started acting up, and she was replaced by a younger, sweeter, hotter, tighter, more fit, more economically sound, higher education girl, which they'll do that.
So the story has a happy ending. Yeah. So, me being in wifey mode, I just realized I was never going to find what I wanted in Medellin, right? Going back to what I said of, 13 of the last 15 or 12, whatever it is, overwhelming majority ask us for money. doing OnlyFans, have a terrible like 2C habit, which is like that.
It's the pink cocaine.
It's ketamine. It's basically ketamine. It's ketamine with, if you're lucky, you'll also have Molly in there, but it's basically just,
that finally hit Mexico City. I tried my first little bit of 2C a couple months ago. It was fun. It was a hot girl from Medellin that saying, "You don't give me any gifts." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" But it was fun, but it's not my drug of choice.
Shocker that I was a Medellin girl and she was that. So one thing I will say is that I do miss is just the absurd, ratio or probability of the women being hot there. Whereas, Brazil, you'll see a lot of cute girls if you walk around, but to see like the truly, like, I'm a big face guy. Guys talk about titties and ass. Don't get me wrong. I love me some titties and ass. Titties and ass, like, we go way back.
I am too. I like pretty faces.
Man.
I used to live in Guadalajara. Beautiful faces.
Yeah, big eyes, right? They almost look like little owls or something, right? Like,
the almond eyes. A lot of them have eyes my color. The clear eyes.
Yeah, but they have kind of like a white and then also indigenous thing going on, which I like. We can talk about tapatillas, right? Is what they're called. But yeah, just to wrap up about Medellin and finish it, we can go on to something else. That was it. It was and then also a massive wave of anti-gringo racism or xenophobia, whatever you want to call it.
I saw your videos on that. That didn't exist when I was there. They had socialist riots, which they have those here in Mexico too. But it was never that bad last time I went there. I think I was in Medellin last in 2018. But all the passport bros weren't there yet either.
So you're right and you're wrong, right? You're right in the fact that it was like much reduced. Like it was overwhelmingly like less than what it is now. But what guys don't realize is they get there, they'll get on a dating app, they'll talk to some girls, and maybe only 20% of the women in that city, especially let's not talk about 20% of all of them. Let's talk about 20% of the highly educated, beautiful English-speaking women. They were maybe educated in London or something like that, or maybe not, but they're at the top of the top. They're beautiful, they're educated, they speak English, they're like the top of upper echelon. Those girls have always been overwhelmingly against dating gringos. So guys will go there, they'll get on a dating app, they're there a short time, they'll match with some beautiful girls. They're from like estrato, which is like, for anyone who doesn't know, 1 is like poverty, 2 is poor, 3 is average, and then 4, 5, and 6 get kind of good. 6 would be like rich. So it's like 1 to 6, they rate these estratos. So you'll get some estrato 3, some estrato 4 girls, and they're beautiful and they treat you well. And some of them may even work like a normal job. They don't speak English. They're not too bright, but you have a great time. And like I said, they treat you like a god. You're down there experiencing Latin women for the first time. But what guys don't know is that there's another echelon of women out there. There is women that are not unburdened by deep thoughts. Like I keep saying, English speaking, educated. They come from families with money. They got more money than you because they go back to being, the heiress to some ancient, cocaine fortune.
My first girlfriend in Guadalajara is like that. It's like, I'm the rich American. She'd pick me up in a Porsche, and her dad had a fleet of exotic cars. And then when I started dating her long term, he actually just let me come over to the house and pick a car I want. He's like, "Oh, you're going to the beach this weekend? Yeah, grab a Maserati." And he had an elevator in his house. I have a maid here, but she doesn't live in. They had a full live-in staff. He had multiple properties all over Mexico and Latin America. Multiple business dealings. I did ask him at one point. He said he made his money doing car stereos. I used to be a car stereo enthusiast. I was like, hey, let's put something in here before I take you to the beach for the weekend. Didn't know the first thing, basic, like how to unconnect a battery or like how to like ground your head unit. Didn't know anything about it. And at one point I asked him, I was like, what do you really do? And he just looked at me. He's like, do you want to keep dating my daughter and having a good time, or do you want to ask questions you don't want answers to? I'm like, all right.
Well, he did 120,000 installations.
Got it. Yeah, exactly.
And this is a good point. That would almost never happen in Medellin. Mexico, you would hear about stuff all the time. For me to start dating some rich Brazilian chick, I don't know, she's the weather woman. She works in the news. She's this daughter of a famous politician. It wouldn't be outlandish or weird to hear of her dating a foreigner, dating a gringo. But in Medellin, you would almost never hear that. So this is one thing that I want to make clear. It's never been really like cool to be a foreigner there. Maybe if you go back like to the 90s, the early 2000s, but even since you started going, you said it's 2018, for the most part, again, there were some exceptions. It was way less, but it was never, and again, it takes a really, really long time. Like you don't really know a city or culture till you're like 5 or 6 years in, especially as a foreigner, because
Exactly.
it just takes you need so many data points to start like seeing patterns. And then you go, oh, that's how it really works. And you're like, and then it's just like, oh, that's why and that's why when I asked her out and she's, oh, and that's why that one girl, and then, oh, and you just like, oh, right. And then for me, the light bulb moment was high quality women, 99 out of 100 in Medellin, don't date gringos. What the fuck am I doing here? I don't need all these fucking sex workers. And then, I would throw these events and I would throw do Instagram ads, and 80% of the women hitting me up to come to my parties would have an OnlyFans link in their bio. And I'm just like, dude, again, I could bang a bunch of easy chicks. I can vlog about it. I can get pretty girls to make me look cool, add them to my YouTube videos as B-roll. But if I want a wife, if I want a girl of substance, I ain't going to find it here. So that was my cue to kick rocks.
I think that's a good thing. You can still find that in Mexico. Mexico's changing a lot. I am unique in that I have data points from 20 years ago. I lived here for 4 years, about almost 20 years ago. And then now I'm going on year 3 of living here full time in the new modern digitally mediated world. So yeah, they have been opened up to the globalized sexual marketplace. Mexico City is very liberal compared to the rest of Mexico and the rest of Latin America for that matter. So it's equivalent to like a New York or an LA. You'll get more kind of left leaning type girls. I'm definitely more down to do more stuff, but maybe not so much in the wifey category. You can get one night stands or just easy lays here a lot easier than you could back in the day in Mexico. You'd have to date them for months and meet the family. And Guadalajara is more of a conservative city than Mexico City too. So, I need to make sure that I make that distinction. But back in the day, there was that foreigner factor still. When I was going to university down here, there were a couple other Americans, but there weren't guys like me walking around campus. I learned Spanish really fast. I enrolled as a Mexican student and I played baseball for my university team. So I had an experience where people would see me walk around and the girls, beautiful girls, the tapatillas we were talking about, they'd come up and they just had to meet me. They were dying to meet me. They wanted to be a part of my life. Whereas here in Mexico City, I don't think it's been as saturated with passport bros as places like Medellin, but there's enough gringos here to where like she's met gringos on Tinder before. She's hung out with gringos in her social groups. All of the nice places that used to be nice, people will tell me, oh, do you go to this nightclub? Like, yeah, I used to until I got saturated with the same Americans like the guys from Tampa I told you about, clutching the beer, being aggressive, bumping into you, sweating, having stinky breath, being the guy who's too cool for school. Yeah, all of those places get kind of fucked out by the passport bros. So I go to like more private events. I don't host them like you do, but I'm on like private event only invite lists. And it's me and maybe, okay, if there's 1 or 2 other gringos there, they're guys that have been vetted and invited into these private social circles, but they also speak Spanish. They're also residents. They also live in Mexico full time. And I think that's a very important note to make between, okay, and girls will ask you on dating apps, how long are you in town for? I was like, no, I live here. Like, oh, well, what hotel are you in? It's like, no, you don't get it. I live here. I am legally a Mexican, although I don't look like one per se. We did kind of touch on this, and guys, I'll start getting the questions, so be sure if you have more, pop them in here. But can you explain more about the classist culture in Mexico if it's not just defined by income? So I know you mentioned the estrados. Previously, if you look it up, it used to be along racial lines. It's not so much anymore, but you'll notice in Mexico that any advertisements or billboards are all guys that look like me. And then you walk outside and realize most of them don't look like me. So you'll see that very clearly, very quickly.
I have a question about Mexico City for you, bro.
Yeah.
And say this as respectfully as I can. I lived in, what was it called? Condesa, Polanco. Am I saying these right? I think those are the neighborhoods.
Yep. I'm in Polanco. This is Polanco right out here.
We have actually a lot of people, Freddie, Dave, we know a lot of the same guys.
Some of the Medellin guys, when they come through town, they'll stay with me. So I've seen in your videos and your B-roll, I'm like, oh, I know that guy. Like, oh, that guy crashed on my couch one night. So yeah, we probably have some mutual friends.
Yeah, I'm curious to that later. We can talk on what's up. I'm curious that is. Anyway, what I'm saying is I have a little bit of experience there. And again, with all due respect, out of 25 countries, God knows how many cities, hundreds and hundreds, as far as like physical, like quality of the women, I don't think I've ever seen a worse city than Mexico City in my life. Now, here's the thing. I know that you, being, you know, the Chad gringo there, good looking, fit, makes money, you're dating, you know, the top 1%, maybe even the top 0.1%. You probably have systems for meeting these girls and things like that. But I'm talking about just walking around the city, generally being on a dating app. Again, maybe, I don't know if it's changed, if fitness is more popular now, if more foreigners from other parts of Venezuela, you know, have come in and improve the market. But I just remember it being really, really bad for quality.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that assessment because I have lived in Guadalajara before. Even I lived in San Diego for 10 years, going to Tijuana, because Tijuana is a border and it's a port city, to where you get a lot of girls from other parts of Latin America that are absolutely beautiful. Now, Mexico City is a major global cosmopolitan city, so you get girls from all over the world, and especially Latin America for that matter. But most of the most attractive girls I date, I always say 50% of the girls I date are not Mexican. They're from other Latin countries. I've dated Israeli girls. There used to be a lot of French girls here, not so much anymore. German girls, but like European girls, Asian girls. There's a sizable amount here, although they're kind of kind of weird compared to like what I'm used to culturally. But yeah, the most attractive women are normally not from Mexico City. If they are Mexican, they're from other parts of Mexico. And a lot of the hottest girls, like if you ever see them go up on my Instagram or whatever, even when I meet them on dating apps, they will be girls from other cities like, hey, I'm in town for a conference, wanted to extend my trip, or, oh, I missed my flight. Let's hang out. And then I'll just tell them, like, grab your luggage, just come stay with me. Where do you live? I live in Polanco. Everyone knows Polanco. They'll look at my Instagram and be like, oh yeah, no, this guy, like, he passes the creeper test. He doesn't give me weirdo vibes or anything. So pretty much 90% of the hottest girls I date, I'd say, are girls that are not from Mexico City. That being said, remove that group of girls, I'm still dating the most attractive girls in Mexico City, but I always use things. We have the idea of SMV, or sexual market value. So I always say there's absolute sexual market value, there's relative sexual market value, and then there's perceived sexual market value. And when I used to be in Rich Cooper's camp, he said it perfectly. He's like, Jaron, he's like, absolute, you're a perfect 7. He's like, relative to the market you're in, he's like, you're probably an 8. He's like, but you speak Spanish and you're fit and you hang out in these social groups and then you have a good Instagram. Perceived and relative sexual market value, I get treated like a 9 here, to where literally my opener is like, hey, they're staying out of trouble. Yes, no, doesn't matter what she says. Cool, let's get into some together. Drop my number if she hits me up. Hey, when are you free? Where are we going? My house. Do you need an Uber? Yeah, I mean, it's super, super easy. Whereas in places like Los Angeles, I don't do as well on dating apps, but I do really well in person, because girls will tell me like, okay, you look like an LA boy, but you're not an idiot like LA guys. Like you actually have some depth to you. You have a personality. You're smart. Like, I like you. So I do well in those cities too. But in Mexico City, it's kind of a cakewalk. I think once you get to that perceived relative or local sexual market value. And again, I go out, every now and then you'll see another attractive guy here, but they're almost always foreigners. Compared to the local population, I don't.
And everybody's fat, right? Everybody's fat.
I don't meet a lot of guys my level. They have the big belly, and then they have underdeveloped muscles, which is worse. Like, you can be fat, but like kind of husky. Like, I lived in Texas for a bit, and I wasn't fat. It wasn't spilling over the front of my pants, but I had some mass on me, and it wasn't all lean mass, but still did well in Texas. I had kind of that teddy bear huggable type thing, but the guys here, they're very underdeveloped in terms of primary masculine physical characteristics, and they're holding excessive amounts of body fat, normally around the gut. So yeah, it's a good combo for me, competition wise. Like I say, I don't really have any competition here. So this goes back to Medellin story. He didn't give me enough attention. That's pretty crazy. Yeah, we're talking about some of our escapades. That's the thing about Mexico City, is there a level, or there isn't a level of beauty here. Yeah, just naturally they're not the best looking women. And then and it's weird, it'll screw with your perceptions. Like, so in my head, I date the top girls in Mexico City, but then I go to a place like Medellin, you're like, oh, that's a whole nother level of beautiful. I used to say a Medellin 6 is like a Los Angeles 8.
Yeah, a Medellin, a girl, unfortunately for them, they go down like anywhere from 3 to 4 points when they get to Medellin. A Louisiana 7, a Louisiana 7 is a 4 in Medellin.
I could see that. Yeah.
That was
That's
I
funny.
forget who taught me that term. That's an old ongoing joke. A Louisiana nine. He's like, do you know what a Louisiana? My friend said, do you know what a Louisiana nine is? I was like, no, what's that? He's like, a girl that's a five in any other area.
Oh, I used to have a buddy say that. He's like, before we went out, he's like, remember, boys, 2 5s don't make a 10. I'm like, I don't know if you got beer goggles on, they might as well.
Threesomes. Let's talk about threesomes for just a second. Let's say
Yeah, let's
that
go.
fucking. This is just me talking here. See if you agree. Let's give it an arbitrary points value to fucking your really, really ideal 10 out of 10 girl. So I'm going to fuck my absolute ideal perfect specimen. That is, let's say 100 pleasure points. And I'm going to fuck, 2 of them and have a threesome. It's like 130 pleasure points. It's not 200. Like it doesn't double. Because the thing about threesomes,
exactly.
man, they're amazing, but you only have one dick. And then here's another thing too. At least what I find, you're kind of always like a little bit distracted and a little bit out of it because you're kind of spinning plates. You're like, because you want every girl to be like, damn, that, like, he put it down. Like, your girl ain't going to sit right for a while. Like, you really want to, put it down. Maybe you'll take, a Viagra before or something like that. But it feels like no matter how much, you're always like worrying if the other girl got as much dick as the other one, or if you fuck the other one is good. And then sometimes they want you to change condoms in between girls.
That's funny. Those thoughts go through my head. I have had a couple where it's like no condom between either one of them, and that's fun. It's just off to the races. But it's like a girl I've been dating for a while, and it's her most intimate best friend, and she hasn't dated in a while too. And then like, okay, we go out together. Hey, my friend wants to come along. Yeah, she can come with me. And then she's like, oh, she hasn't had any loving in a while. I was like, all right, I'm gonna be really sweet with your friend. I already know it's gonna be a 3-way at the end of the night, but I've had a couple like that, and those are quite fun. But yeah, you do get, it's not even necessarily performance anxiety. You just have in your head, like you said. I always say I used to be a fat kid growing up, and I give a lot of credit to my mom because my siblings were fat too. She was so perfect at making perfect portions of the meal come dinner time, because when you have a bunch of overweight kids, so you got more than me. Why'd you give her more than me? Hey, what the hell? And so I kind of have that in my head too with the threesome thing. It's like, you don't want to give too much attention to one because they will get jealous. I have had 3-ways where like my main girl set it up, and then I'm taking care of the new girl, and the main girl gets mad and goes to the bathroom and like, locks the door and turns on music loud and starts taking a shower. I'm like, that spoils the fun for everyone.
Yeah, then you're worried about, then it, like you have a negative. I haven't had that yet, but or you're always like, typically there's like one girl that's like a lot hotter than the other one. It's hard to get to. Or
one girl's way more into it than the other one. So a lot of my best 3-way partners have been main girls that are bi, that are more into girls than they're into guys, but they realize with me they can get hotter girls than they would on their own, because a lot of girls don't know game at all. And you'll learn if you're new to 3-ways that for me, I used to always think, okay, I'll sit 2 girls down and then I'll just, and like, all right, go at each other, we'll get it going. Usually it's where in 90% of my 3-way scenarios, it's where it's a girl I've already been with and we already kind of have that rapport and that connection. We bring a new girl in normally, and I explain this to them. I have to bang the new girl first, so that way she's kind of in my frame, and then I can connect the two together. If you sit them down and then you're like, okay, start playing with each other, they're just kind of, what do? I don't know. They don't. It's all an energy exchange. So I have to be that common denominator in terms of they exchange their energy via me, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. Yeah. Like they're both, in a submissive frame to you for sure. Cause you gotta be like the conductor. You gotta like, tell
exactly
and legs where to go and shit like that.
Logistically, it gets weird sometimes too. It's like, it's already hard enough to deal with one Latina who flakes all the time to get 2 of them. So that's why it's usually when it happens, it's like, it's a friend of one of my girls. Then she sets it all up and then I just host.
Coordinator. So for better or worse, I talk about this sometimes in my videos about Brazilian women. They are very active. Not all of them, but they can be very active, and they can be very quick to become active, to do cardio, if you know what I'm saying. So
that's one of my lines.
Yeah.
Are you going to the gym today? It's like, hey, do you want to come over? Oh, I have to go to the gym. Like, just come over here. We'll do cardio at home. Exactly. And I'm in good shape, so I give them a workout. I don't mislead them.
You're at that altitude too, man. God, when I'm fucking in Bogota, or I'm like, why am I getting tired? Like, I'm at
Yeah, gas out 2 or 3
Powerhouse.
reps shy at the gym. It's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, with Brazilian women, overall, I'm leaning towards the fact that my one day my future wife will be Brazilian. Also because there's just so much diversity here, which I can talk about in a second. But that is the one thing about them. Great for being single, very sexually liberated, but I don't think you're going to find too many Brazilian women with like these insanely low body counts. Like most of my girlfriends, when I made them my girlfriend, they were around 21, 22 ish, and they had body counts of around like 4, 3, 4, something like that, which I consider to be low, by my standard at least. But I think it would be hard to find a Brazilian girl with that low of a body count, and then I don't know, they're just more of a promiscuous culture.
For those age girls here in Mexico City, well, it depends. So this is biased because obviously I hang out with girls that are going to hook up quickly. There's still plenty of conservative girls all over Mexico, not as much in Mexico City. When I was in college, most girls I dated, they're actually still virgins, or they had one boyfriend prior to me long term, and then I had to put in months of work. So I think when I was in school, it took me like 8 months to start getting my first girl coming through the pipeline. But I had been working on multiple girls, so once that first one came through, then the next one came through, and then my results started compounding exponentially during the 4 years I was in Guadalajara. But it took me a while to get that first one to come through. They were still kind of hesitant, a little more conservative. That, and also too, to be honest, my game wasn't quite as developed then as it is now. So last time I went back to Guadalajara, obviously I get the same results I do here in Mexico City. Which I got a question here. Why did you decide not to go back to Guadalajara in that case? This time around, actually. So I was working the first time around, I was studying and playing baseball. This time around, well into my profession. So I had a remote job for one of the big four firms, and they wanted me. They have offices in Guadalajara too, obviously, but they wanted me to be more kind of in a cultural and economic hub. And for me to move abroad, I wanted that too. I didn't want to be traveling all the damn time. So they had a handful of offices here in Mexico City for client meetings and things of that nature. A lot of them were in and out of Mexico City, so it was just more convenient for me. I ran a list of things I was looking for in a city, and at that time, I'm independent now. I still do corporate consulting for marketing, but I work for myself now. At the time, I did not, so Mexico City just made more sense to me. I still had to go to New York a lot, LA a lot, Miami a lot for business, London at least once a year. So direct flights, and then again, there's more. It's a major world city. Mexico City, just people, international business coming in and out of town all the time. It was just a little more convenient for me. Now, if I had to settle down and raise a family at some point, I think Guadalajara would definitely be the better city. And then obviously attractiveness wise, the women are much more attractive there as well.
Yeah, I want to check out Guadalajara. This is one thing that I've been slowly coming to the realization of is there's a major dark side of being a passport bro, whether it's the digital nomad, traditionally like, nomadic, I'm in Bangkok, then I'm in whatever, some random European city, now Latin America, or even if it's staying in the same city, which is your friend group and social circles have to be reinvented all the time. Because it is very difficult. It's not impossible. I've definitely done it, but it is very difficult generally to make really close, intimate friendships with guys that are not, American, Canadian, British, that are, the local guys. Like,
I watched your video on that. It's the same in Mexico City. Like the guys here just aren't as cool as other foreign guys.
Yeah. Like you probably don't have too many super close Mexican friends, people in your network, Dave, Freddie, like, do those guys have a lot of like super close Mexican friends that they would like move to another city and like,
we hang out with each other. Even when I lived in Guadalajara, I went to a Mexican university and there was maybe 80 exchange students, most of those from other Latin countries. We had a lot of Koreans. Of my guy friend group 20 years ago when I studied abroad and lived down here, they were all other Latins. So the guys I ran with, like Cubans, the Colombian guy, real nice kid. There's a Peruvian guy he used to be my weightlifting partner. He's actually a politician in Peru now. So I went to a very good school in Mexico. Didn't realize it at the time, but now looking back, like, all my guy friends are like politicians and like somebody in their other Latin countries. But at that time, I think I had one or two maybe Mexican guy friends. One of them was an alcoholic. He was the governor of Jalisco's son. For a term prior to him coming into university. So kind of a spoiled kid. drank all the time, had like real emotional outbursts. He was fun as hell to hang out with, but kind of a wild card, would always get us into trouble, and then daddy would get him out of trouble. And of my guy friends here, I think one or two of them are Mexican guys. One of them, he's one of the DJs at these private events I go to. He's got that kind of too cool for school attitude, but he and I get along real well because he has dope after parties, and a lot of times I have him here at my house, and we just kind of end up together at the end of the night. There was one time, and I'm sure this happened to you in Medellin, where you go out. We went to an after party at a nightclub, like 15 people there. Only knew two of the people in the group. And then the lights come on, and all of a sudden everyone's gone, and no one knows who's going to pay the bill. So me and this guy got stuck with the bill. So that kind of brought us together. And then another guy, he's a lighter skinned European bloodline Mexican. Went to an American school, speaks English well, has lived in the U.S. and worked for international companies. So academically or culturally or ideologically, he's kind of more in line with me. But the way I say, we talk about class a lot. I say that there's a new class. So a lot of people say, Jaron, you're gringo, you're American. Like, I haven't lived in the US in years. And even when I lived in San Diego, I worked all the time, and I was in Latin America whenever I was free, or I'd go to Europe or backpack around other countries. So culturally, I didn't really consider myself an American. I've realized now, living abroad, there's an international class of people. So yes, you will meet Mexicans that belong to that international class. However, I've noticed in terms of people being unburdened by deep thoughts that even when I lived in Guadalajara, the higher IQ people were all girls. I don't really come across a lot of high IQ men in these cultures, but I do come across smart women every now and then. So that was an interesting thing that I've noticed my first time around, and then my second time around living in Mexico as well.
So yeah, similar experiences. Obviously, I didn't make any friends with Medellin because they're super unburdened, and they don't like gringos. It was kind of a mutual, we didn't really want to be friends with each other type thing. And I had a huge network out there, bro. I used to fill these penthouses with, 30 guys, 90 chicks, 120 people in a penthouse with a 3-to-1 ratio. Sometimes I'd have parties where, I'm not joking, I have like footage of these. I'm not capping, as the kids say. Like 5-to-1, 6-to-1. And those are not a good thing, because then girls start getting bored and leave. But the point being is, like, to get the budget of these, like, you have to have a big network. I wasn't trying to spend, $3,000, $4,000. People think, like, how could it be that much? It's literally just, alcohol. And I was also pay the girls Ubers. That was really expensive because girls just wouldn't come out and meet me if I didn't pay their Ubers. So Ubers, alcohol,
I pay for their Ubers too. I can also track where they're at, because if they're driving themselves, oh yeah, I'm almost at your house. Oh, I'm 15 minutes away. Well, 2 hours go by. Oh yeah, I stopped to get a drink. Or I realized I didn't give my dog food, so I had to go home. And then my dad called me. And so with Uber, like, once she's in the Uber, I know when you're going to arrive to my house, so I can plan my time around that.
I'm talking about a little different. I'm talking like you got 90 chicks separated by 33 Ubers, and they just arrive, and you just have an assistant downstairs just paying it in cash when they arrive, reimbursing them or whatever. Anyway, point being, obviously you have to have a huge network if you're going to put 30 dudes in a penthouse and triple that the number of women. And as much as I hate Medellin, I do miss my network now. Half of them left. If I went back there now, the other half, but like, they're just in random, one of them's in Bali. One of them's just permanently traveling. He went to like Japan for a while. A good number of them did stay back. And honestly, I look at them a little different. Like, I try to be judgmental and stuff. I'm like, dude, you're literally staying in a place that just, has easy, hot, dumb girls. It has nothing else going for it. That, it's not even cheap anymore. It's getting expensive. It's dangerous. You never know if, like, a first date's going to be your last date, if you know what I mean. If you're going to get drugged out there and killed. And that's kind of the dark reality of being a passport. You think it's all just, big booty bitches and parties and fun and making friends with friends. But then maybe you move around for whatever reasons, cultural shifts happen, or maybe your friends leave. And, I know I'm jumping around all over the place, but this is another thing that, like, I never used to worry about as a kid. Maybe you can relate to this a little bit. Some of the viewers too, is like, the number of places that I'm being chased out of because of, like, who I am is getting ridiculous. Like, I got chased out of US, not like chased out, but I was basically forced to leave US because men became evil and feminism made women masculine and gave them all super high standards, especially white, conservative leading, unvaccinated men. It's basically illegal for me for like my existence. It's illegal to be me.
The women here like that. I've had many women ask me, "Are you vaccinated?" I'm like, "No," but I have a theory too. In Latin America, they've been fucked around for hundreds of years, like just tragedy after tragedy. So their bullshit meter, I think, is a little better than most Americans. Granted, they're superstitious here, so a lot of going back to that caste system, which is largely along racial lines. So a lot of like for example, my cleaning lady looks different from my accountant. Let's just say that. So
Yeah.
of my cleaning lady's caste, they're largely superstitious. That comes from like pre-Hispanic type cultural traits. So they wore the mask long after the COVID thing, but like no one really enforced the mask thing. They're like, yeah, like it's all bullshit propaganda. And it's funny in the US, the quote unquote educated people bought into that nonsense. In Latin America, or at least here in Mexico, it was the reverse, to where the highly educated people are more conservative because they study more of the classical education form. The university I went to was a classical education. So again, it's largely along racial lines. So a lot of people that look like me, like they all knew it was BS. Like, well, yeah, like legally you have to wear a mask, but like that's not for us. That's for for the indigenous. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I forgot where I was going with that, but yeah, basically. Where was I going with that? Yeah, it's just like it sucks having to being chased by like culture. So I was forced to leave the U.S. Then I lived in I went back to the U.S. for a little bit. I went to Miami. Thought, well, it's the Latin America of America. Maybe I could find a good girl out here. I clearly didn't know Miami to think that I could actually be a good girl in Miami. If there's one place
I have fun in Miami, or the good girls I meet are also there visiting, and they're from other places.
Yeah, the girls in Miami, the best way I could explain them is if you watch that show Fresh and Fit, my good friend's show, where they're all sitting on there like, he got to be 7 feet tall and make $1 billion a year, and his dick got to be 18 inches and this and that, and you think like, oh, it's just like the trashy OnlyFans girls are bringing on the show. The average Miami girl isn't that bad. No, that is an accurate representation of at least in my experience. And just how much they care about status. So like, quick story. I was there in the Fresh and Fit studio, I don't know, maybe 50 times just as a friend, just supporting them. I was Walter's roommate. So like sometimes when he's driving out of the studio to do the show, I would just, I was his roommate for 2 years. I would just, kind of tag along, really good friends with guys, support them. I would play what's called producer in the early days. I'd be like, what button controls the camera? And like, I was, a shitty producer, but I was like doing it in the early days to help out sometimes. And if I'm in the studio, I thought like, hey, why don't I shoot my shot? At this point, I was doing 2 weeks Medellin, 2 weeks Miami, 2 weeks Medellin, 2 weeks Miami. But I had kind of like a double life, like a secret agent, right? And I thought, hey, I'm in Miami. Half these girls are Latina. Maybe they'll be impressed by like a white boy that speaks Spanish. I'll shoot my shot. Never really got even close to anywhere with these women in the studio. They're all trash. Just wanted to bang them anyway. Until the night that I was actually a guest on that show. So when I'm just in the studio, I should already have some status because like, first of all, for me to even be granted access to the studio, second of all, to be Walter's roommate, I'm like the roommate of one of like the founders of the show, and just, whatever, my game, my personality.
You're part of the clique.
Yeah, part of the clique. Yeah, exactly. You would think I would get something. Nope, nothing. When I was the guest on that show, and actually I had like my own episode dedicated to me, bro, you can see them like on the late night show. You can see all them flirting with me. You can see 2 girls sitting next to me, like, leaning on me, like putting their heads on me and like touching me like live. And my girlfriend from Medellin is like watching, like, the fuck is that bitch doing? You know what I mean? And all status, bro. That's all my, money, status, money. They don't even care about looks. It's just money, status, money, status, money, status in that fucking city.
I can definitely see that. And it used to be that way for me. I think there was one time we did a meetup for one of the private groups I was a part of. Our first one was in Miami, and we got the mansion, and we got the yacht, and we got the exotic cars, and the professional photographers and videographers there. So I changed my Tinder and literally said that, like, hey, we have a mansion party coming up, and I'd match with not like the 9s and 10s, but like a solid 7 or 8 Colombian, Venezuelan, Cuban, Dominican, whatever. And I'd lead with that. And then I actually met quite a few girls like, hey, not really into that, but you mentioned you're going to stay here a couple days after. You'll be in South Beach in like a little apartment. Like, I'd like to meet up with you then. Let's just do something chill. But that could be the way I had my profile set up, or the type of women that I attract, because I thought, okay, here I am in Miami, and I've been to Miami many times. Here I am in Miami, and I have this cool group of guys, and we have the boat, and we have the mansion, and we have the good views, and like pretty people coming in, and we're gonna have like a DJ and this badass party. And a lot of the girls I match, like, yeah, I'm not about that, but I think that it could also be because they've been in Miami so long that like every girl's been on a yacht if she's lived in Miami for any even short amount of time. And you do see a lot in Miami on the Tinder, like who has a boat, where's the boat party? You'll see that on a lot of those profiles.
Yeah, I zero desires to go back to Miami. And this goes back to what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if it's a lot of people can relate to this, but it's like I have 2 or 3 really good core lifelong friends in LA. I got a couple in Miami. I got a couple in Vegas. I got a couple in Medellin. Now I'm starting to make them in Brazil. And I'm just like tired of fucking moving, man. Like again, I said, this digital nomad, passport bro life is so glamorized on the internet, but you've been in Mexico City, so you probably have a really good social circle. But would you agree that a lot of your friends are kind of like they come in for a while, then they leave, then you make new friends, and some old friends come back to visit, but they're just visiting.
The U.S. was that way too. So where I grew up, most people didn't really leave the hometown, and if they did, they went to the nearest largest town. So the fact that I moved away and went to California was like, whoa, no one really did that. But San Diego and Los Angeles are kind of like that too. People ask like, hey, you lived in San Diego for almost 10 years. Why didn't you ever go back there? It's like, none of my friends are there anymore. Even my friends who are born and raised in San Diego are no longer in San Diego. I lived in LA for 6 months on a short-term contract. Didn't really make any friends there. But now because of the channel, a lot of guys in my network, they're LA boys. So I have more friends in LA than I did when I actually lived in LA. And going back to your point, I did the digital nomad thing, like the living out of a duffel bag for a few years. And I got kind of tired of that after a while. I wanted to like have a home base is what I call it. So where you see where I'm at now, this is my home base. I still travel, but not to the degree I used to. And when it comes time to go into US cities, I mean, the last few times I've been to New York, Miami, or LA, I still do well with women in those cities, but that's not the point of the trip. I have plenty of women here. In fact, sometimes when I go to my hometown, the last few times, I don't even try for women there because they're just not at the level. They're nowhere near my minimum quality requirements, so I don't even try. But I'm there with my family. I'm seeing my nieces and nephews. I'm hanging out with my brothers. We all live in different parts of the world. We rarely get to see each other in the flesh. So for me, it's like I get to go to my hometown. I get to spend time with family. I get to go to LA. I'm going to hang out with my boys. Now, my boys are cool as hell and they have good social circles. So by virtue of that, I end up having opportunities to hook up with girls. But that's not the priority when I travel anymore, which it used to be when I was younger. Like even when I was in college and I'd take extended trips to backpack around Europe or Central America, parts of South America. It's like, ooh, we got to find the girls. Where are the girls? Now, when I get on an airplane, like I have girls here. I don't need more girls. In fact, I have too many. When I get on an airplane, I'm like, I'm going to see my boys. I'm going to see my bros. And it is so much harder to make a solid male relationship than it is with the female relationship. Like girls are a dime a dozen. They'll come and go. Yeah. Some will stick around for the long term. Some are like, a couple months. But every relationship has a timeline. But to meet like a real solid dude, that is rare. So when I go to the US, it's because I'm hanging out with my guys. And granted, we all get laid, but that's not the focus. That's never the focus.
Yeah, I would agree. And this is like what I was thinking now is like why the ultimate flex is a family, is like a wife and kids. That's like your permanent social circle. I think there's like different flexes at different ages. And how old are you, by the way? I'm 36.
I'm 37, actually. I just turned 37 last week. So you know what? And that's a good point too, that I think my game got better in the U.S. when I don't live in the U.S. anymore. It was always good. It was always considerably better than any other guy I knew. But it's because when I go out in places in L.A., I'll go to these private parties, and I'm the only guy not trying to get laid. Like girls will open me, they're like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like sitting on a lawn chair watching the sunset. I'm like, "Hey, I'm just really enjoying the vibes. Like this is a beautiful sunset. I haven't lived in California in a few years, and I really miss this. I'm just enjoying the moment." And it's like, "Oh, that's really cool." I was like, "Yeah, take a seat." And there's only one chair, and that's girls will just sit on my lap and like, yeah, I'm just enjoying the moment. And now LA is kind of a status driven city too, just like Miami, but you will get that girl's like, "Oh my God, like you're not like other guys here." And all I have to do is show up and not try to get laid. And then girls will open me. It's the craziest shit.
Yeah. Things good looking guys say.
Yeah, right.
If I sat in a log at a Hollywood Hills mansion party on
Yeah, like,
Sunset Boulevard.
yeah, that guy's a weirdo.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah,
Who's that daywalker?
yeah, exactly, for real.
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, so any desire for like, wife and kids, or you just still enjoying being a bachelor?
Do you know what's funny? Every now and then I have that desire, and then like a new girl just pops up that rocks my socks, or just like, whoa, okay. And then, well, maybe I want to do the bachelor thing for a bit. To be, if we're being honest, I think most guys, my coaching clients, they'll come through and say like, hey, I want to get better at dating. Okay, what does that look like? And a lot of times they don't know, but most of them want a solid long-term relationship. Then they start getting success. Then they start building rotations and having the variety. And then like, well, maybe I'll refresh that thought. Maybe I do like having the variety. But for the last few years of my life, I've ran I'd say it's like a multiple long-term relationship model. So I usually have a main girl, which she's my girlfriend, for lack of a better word. It's just we do the one-way monogamy model. So it's open on my end, it's closed on her end, and then other girls that are kind of peripheral girls, maybe two or three that they'll come by once a week. It's not like a girlfriend level, but there's still more of a relationship than the random girls, and then just randos that just come in and out. Tender matches girls I meet at these rooftop parties that just want to get a piece of dick, and then they're done. So that's kind of the model I've been running for the last few years now, and that's worked really well for me. But there are times, especially when I go home and play with my niece and nephew, or when I'm around friends that are in like long-term, happy, healthy relationships, like, you know what, that would be really nice. I think a lot of times, for the longest time for me, running so much volume with girls, I think it was trying to fill that void of like, okay, people used to always say like, I'm a sex addict. I've never been a sex addict. I was a love addict, but now I have so much love from women in my life that void is more than filled, to where it's like, okay. And I think I didn't realize this internally years ago, but I think it rang true once I started getting success with women. And again, I've always had success relative to others in my periphery, but success for me to where like, okay, I can get the type of girl I want, and I can get her to stay, and I can get her to love me. And now I'm at the point you mentioned, kind of that like upper strata of girls. Like it was like, I think it was a couple of years ago where I got to the point like, I can get these girls, or guys that come to like the red pill space. It's usually trauma. All these girls are 304s. I can't find a good traditional wifey type girl. Well, I can. And I think that was a real revelation for me. It's like, okay, I've advanced so far in the game. Yeah, I have had trauma in the past and I've worked through it, but I'm at the point to where if I wanted that American dream, that white picket fence, like the 2 kids and the dog and 2 cars in the garage, or whatever the hell that looks like, I could do that. And I think most guys don't ever get to that point. I think they try out that model. It fails miserably. Then they come to the game topics, the red pill topics. Most of them don't see any success at all. I think they're just kind of like mental masturbators. They get off on watching this type of content, but not really doing anything about it. But there are that handful of guys, and most of them are in my friend groups, to where they have wild success, wild beyond their craziest dreams. And then it gets to the point on the back end of that, it's like, you know what, I'd like a solid girl. So I think I'm leaning more in that direction. I still enjoy the variety, but I've noticed with my last few main girls, like that there is more depth in the relationship. It is like a traditional girlfriend-boyfriend relationship. It's just open on my end. So I think as I get older, that'll change. I used to never think I wanted kids or be married and do that thing. But once kids started showing up in my family, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I think I might at some point. And I'm also the oldest of 4 kids, so I essentially raised my siblings. And I'll tell you what, like that's a big burden to put on a young kid, but I did a really good job. My siblings they're all fucking ass kickers. So it's like, all right, if I could do it when I didn't know what I was doing and I did a good job, I can't imagine the high caliber kids I could raise now. So that's a good question. I think I'm thinking more and more along those lines, but I'm still enjoying what I'm doing too.
Hey, had your trial run.
Yeah. How about you? Where are you at there? Because we are about the same age.
Here's what we're pretty much exactly the same age. I believe there's like a different version of the ultimate flex. I don't think 19, 20 flexing out with a wife and kids is per se the ultimate flex. Although it could be right, because then by the time I have a friend, he knocked a girl up, and long story short, when he's we did the math or something, when he's like 42, 43, 45. His son's going to be 19, 20. He's going to have like a little brother. So imagine how, being like 45, you still have energy, your dick still works. You can still run around and stay up late and do all the crazy shit we're not too far off from 45, right?
Yeah.
And you have like a little clone of you who's just a little bit more, energetic version of you running around. So that could be cool. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is like maybe the ultimate flex is the typical Instagram fuckboy lifestyle you see when you're 18, 19. You have, some supercars, you're popping bottles, you're doing private jets, you're traveling another city, you're sleeping, 2-3 hours a night. You're just always in the mix. And then I think the ultimate flex at this age, and I think the ultimate flex in general, like the long-term ultimate flex, is just a loving relationship with a family that respects you, listens to you, and you all love each other, right? I think, and that's,
I agree with that. Yeah.
That's your social. I guess, your kids, eventually move out and, move away, but you got a good, especially if you stagger your kids a few years apart, you got a good 20 to maybe even up to 30 years of solid, social circle love. At the end of the day, they did this study, and this is, I think kind of obvious, but the main thing that causes long-term fulfillment and happiness is amazing relationships with good friends and family. That's it. It's love, oxytocin, people get along, white picket fence and a Labrador, living in a house full of, perfect kids, and an awesome wife who is still submissive to you and obeys you and adores you. So I'm looking on the horizon for that. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I've even noticed that recently with my model, the MLTR thing. It for the longest time, people had asked me, for the longest time, I'd go to cities like music festivals like Coachella or Ultra or like EDC or any of those, and I'd go with myself and I'd go with my boys, and people would be like, "Hey, why don't you bring a girl, or aren't you seeing a girl?" I was like, "No, I can find new girls here." All of a sudden that changed within the last couple of years to where if I'm going out of town, like I'd rather just take a girl I have a good relationship with already and enjoy that experience with her.
Yep. Yeah. And then, just to clarify on my end, I want to still fuck others. Like I'm the type of guy that could take my family to the beach. I got some little, 4 or 5, 6, some little toddlers running around. They tire me out. I'm there with, my wife who's, 35, 36, still looks fucking slamming. Maybe plow her early on in the morning, then take the family home. And then I might, have some side action waiting for me, at nighttime. I'd be, seeing another girl on the side. But I definitely want one core long-term girl, that's going to be doing the family with me. And yeah, just to clarify, I'm still a dirty dog. I'm still a filthy mutt, just a perverted pooch.
There's nothing like new cooch. I swear to God. Like there's girls I see, like I really enjoy being around them, and like there is like that deep, from my end too, emotional investment where they say, "Hey baby, I date younger girls like you do too." So hey baby, I went to this medical school interview, or I went to 4 interviews this week, and 2 of them won't accept me to their program. So now I have a good dilemma of like, which program do I choose? And I am genuinely happy for them. Like that makes my day when my girls are progressing in life. So I'm glad I'm finally able to get to that point. But then again, I had this happen a couple of days ago. It was a new match on Tinder. Oh my God, looks like we're only a kilometer apart. I'm like, yeah, hey, what do you got going on today? Oh, I'm only in town for one more night, and I have to leave, and then I have to leave tonight or early tomorrow. So it sucks. Looks like I won't get to see you. I'm like, well, how about you just bring your shit over to my house, and then you stay the night, and you can just leave tomorrow. Okay, yeah, that's exciting. That's really. Yeah. Oh, that's so exciting. Well, like I said, the
pretty much has to bang you at that point. If she says yes, she knows. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I'm agreeing to bang this guy. It's like that unwritten thing. Like when you fly a girl, like, yeah, you're in, XYZ. Oh, why don't I fly you out? You can stay with me. They know that I've never flown a girl out and had her not understand that, like, yeah, she's got to give me the business straight away.
I used to have that conversation with guy friends of mine. Like you said, you progressively upgrade your friend circle. So I don't hang out with guys that have any issues with girls anymore, because they'll bring that into your life, whether you want them to or not. But I remember back in the day, guys would be like, oh yeah, my girlfriend's going to Miami to like hang out with her friend. I'm like, guy friend or girlfriend? Oh, it's just a coworker. I was like, bro. So I knew this back in my college days. If there's travel involved, there is a dick on the other end of that equation. No girls getting on an airplane and going somewhere by yourself just just because she wants to discover herself, or because she's really into I love it, girls. I'm really into exploring new cultures. Like, I'm into exploring new cultures too. That's me banging chicks from new cultures. Like, I did a Europe trip last summer. Yeah, like I'd had Israeli girls before, but I went to Israel and like spread seed in the Holy Land. That is fun. It is a novel experience. It gives you that dopamine rush. But like you said, longer term, that oxytocin. I like both sides of the equation. Like I like it when my main girl's like, "Hey, baby, I had a really good day today, and I know you're busy, but I'm just gonna leave you a quick voicemail. I can't contain my excitement, and I just wanted to tell you." I like that. That makes me feel feelings of love and interconnectedness, those deep, higher level emotions. But you get the girl, the French stewardess. Hey, I was supposed to. Hey, I do well, stewardess too. So hey, I thought I had to turn around, go right back to France tonight. Turns out there's a delay, and looks like we'll be taking off tomorrow. Like, what are you up to? Like, hey, come on over. And like, that's really fun too. So that they're two different experiences, but I like having both of them. I think if I had to only have one until death do us part, that itch that's always like, there's new. And then now that I have the skill set to where I can actually get it, I don't think that'll go away anytime soon. And you'll hear a lot of guys, I always say, don't make necessity your virtue. You'll hear of guys like, oh, well, you won't settle down because you can't. I'm like, bro, you're not playing the field because you can't. You settled down. I can settle down and still play the field. I have that skill set, and I have that SMV, and I have the ability to do so. I don't know what your take necessarily is on that.
What's the other expression? Like, a man is only as faithful as his options. So
that was Chris Rock. Yeah.
Yeah. You'll see, as a cross, yeah, he's genius. He also said if a man could live in a cardboard box on the street and still get pussy, we'd all live in, cardboard boxes.
You see those memes. I can't believe men live like this. I've lived like that. My apartment's pretty bare bones. It does not get in my way. I have no artwork on my walls. That has never gotten in my way.
Except for your podcast studio's got a little bit of artwork behind it on the good vibes and the
the good vibes. Got that on Amazon.
Did a girl get that for you, or did you get that?
No, I got that for myself. I kind of wanted something to put there.
Girls are good at nesting, putting shit together.
They do. It was my birthday, a week and a half ago. I got a lot of really thoughtful birthday presents, but it was like little details, little decorative type things, little things that I'll use, like a coffee mug that says, like, I think my saying's like, build lives worth living and loving. And the saying was in English about that. I opened the cabinet last night and didn't even realize that one of my girls had put that in there. And I know exactly which one did it. I'm like, oh, that's a nice little detail. So they'll leave, that nesting is the right term. They'll leave things around your house, and it's funny too. They'll slowly start moving in. Like I found like I had a girl yesterday morning, and then my new main girl come over after that. And at one point I went to the bathroom, and I always revise the bathroom, like take out your trash, make sure there's no hairs in the shower or any shit like that. But I went to the counter and I saw a compact sitting there. I was like, oh no, here's a fight waiting to happen. And I was like, don't bring it up. They hey, is this your compact? Yeah.
They do it on purpose.
But when she left, the compact was gone. Or she went to the bathroom. She's like, oh, I left my makeup. I'm like, oh, thank God it was yours, because I check all my stuff. But I used to like just check the bed sheets. No, turns out I've had this happen recently. The girl took like an empty condom wrapper and like tucked it inside of my pillow. And then the next girl somehow found it there. So it's like they're hiding shit, not from each other, but for each other. It's like, all right,
they're in like WhatsApp groups. They're like, now we're going to hide shit in the pillowcases.
Oh, I have to like pull mattresses off and rip bed sheets off and fling them around and make sure everything's gone, because they're getting next level with this stuff. But like you said, nesting is a perfect word. Yeah. They'll just slowly start moving in.
Before I decided to just be so raw with girls and tell them, look, I'm not asking, I'm just telling this is what it is. I'm going to fuck other girls, and that's all there is to it type thing.
Mine know it now. I don't have to tell them. They just understand it.
Okay. I prefer to have like super clear communication, because that way there can't be a fight later. It's like, she can't deny that she, obviously knew. Anyway, what was I saying with that? Oh, because like I remember I used to have this like this like cheaters checklist. It was like this Google sheet that just got progressively longer. But every time I would get caught like cheating on a girl, there was another thing on the checklist, which is like your Uber history. Did another girl like use your Uber? What recent emojis are in your phone? Because if there's a bunch of like kissy emojis, she's like, you never sent that emoji to me. Why would you have who would you be using that kissy emoji with? Your Google Translator history.
Yeah.
Hair left behind, condom left behind, makeup stains, like flesh colored stains, like on the mattress, bro.
On the
It just
collars
got
of my shirt, even. Yeah.
on the colors,
Glitter. A lot of the
glitter,
young girls here wear glitter, and that shit gets everywhere. Or they do a little.
bro.
They do eye art, so like
Yeah.
it's bigger than glitter. They're like little diamonds, and they'll paste similar on their eyes, or they'll do it on the
Bro.
inside. And yep.
I had a
Earrings,
cheaters that
not the earring, the back of the earring. Like I have my ears pierced too. I'd never used them. I had them pierced in college, but the holes are still open. So when I go out publicly, like I'll wear earrings now sometimes, which kind of helps me out. Like, whose earrings are these? Like, oh, they're mine. Like bullshit. And I just pop them in. Like, no, they are, seriously.
That's funny. They're like invented to like trip us up. You know what I mean? These like things. That's why I'm laughing.
Which is funny. I was going to ask you, I think in Latin cultures, it's kind of built into them. Like if you know, like older gentlemen down here, again, that top echelon of social class here, it's pretty much understood. Like if you're a telenovela actor, if you're a musician, like a lot of the Mexican men here, they will have their beautiful senoras that's well taken care of, maintained publicly, but because I've dated women too. Oh, I'm divorced, and you don't get the same single mama drama like you do in the U.S. Most of their stories is I married a really good guy. I was really young. He was quite a bit older than me. Turns out he was cheating on me. We had an amicable divorce. Like we're still seen in public. I have access to the kids whenever I want, but he's a really good dad. He's a high class guy. And I've heard that story time and time again from women around my age down here in Mexico. A lot of the hot ones that have been well maintained or taken care of, to where, no, I actually married a really good guy, but he wanted younger girls, and then they eventually got divorced, but he still has an apartment for her along with her other side chicks. So like, and a lot of girls I've dated, especially the ones that are like openly, hey, not only do I not care that you sleep with other women, but I like to watch and I want to introduce you to my girlfriends. Like, let me guess, your dad was an alpha, right? And the girl's like, oh my God, yeah, and my brothers are too. So in Latin culture, I've noticed that's more kind of built into them. Whereas in the US, like, oh, you can't handle one girl. You're not mature enough to settle down. Oh, who hurt you? Whereas in Latin America, it's like, you're the shit. Obviously you're dating other girls. Just don't embarrass me.
Yeah. And that's the key, right? Yeah, that don't embarrass me. That's why I think the reason why I've never had a problem with that. Well, there's a couple of reasons. Right? So for anybody who's watching who wants to do the whole traditional relationship is open for me, for the guy, but closed for the girl, that one-way open relationship thing. Number one is I don't even mention that or bring that up till they're like deep in love with me. It's like the heroin or the cigarettes thing, right? You don't think it's going to be an issue or like, addiction. You're like, oh, I'll just do a little bit of heroin on the weekend, a little bit of crystal meth, and then boom, oh, next thing you know, you're like hopelessly addicted. So I wait for about, 2 or 3 months in till they're like hopelessly, in love with me. And that's right around the point that they generally bring up like, so, what are we type thing anyway. And the other thing I would say is, what was I going with this? Number one, don't bring it up right away. Oh, and then number two, you like, again, not to be arrogant, but I know you can relate to this. When you have so much experience with women, you know so much about female psychology, you've been dating for so long, you've had so many girlfriends, you just become almost like a skill set. You get really good at making women fall in love with you, and
yes,
you just kind of get them addicted to your personality, and they kind of get a type of connection with you that they, like you were saying, like they just can't find it from another guy.
A lot of my girls tell me that. And I said that even when I used to go on Rich's channel all the time, guys would blow me up in the comments like, no way. And I remember being at that point, like I used to think a 3-way was like, oh my God, that's impossible. Or, X amount of girls in Y time frame. Oh, this is impossible. And then you start living it and you internalize it. And that's just kind of who you are. So I can feel them falling in love with me. And actually really quick, I just recorded a video earlier, right before we got on the stream. And that was the last point. Like Latinas fall in love fast and they'll fall out of love fast. But especially when new girls come in the mix, a lot of times when I was earlier in the dating space, it was more so, okay, I'm seeing this girl, things are getting hot and heavy really fast. Then she pulls away. That was usually an effect of me screwing up. It's like, okay, I gave her too much time and attention. I was too available. Maybe I lowered my value by trying to prove that I was someone who I'm not to her. So I still have girls that will come in hot and heavy and then they pull away all of a sudden, but for completely different reasons, because you do create that relationship and they'll still communicate with you, and they'll say things like, hey, I started getting way in too deep with you. I started falling in love with you. I knew from the get-go you've seen other girls. I knew that it was going to be a one-way monogamy thing. You know, my cultural conditioning doesn't necessarily allow that. Or like, hey, I thought it was just going to be a fun fling for a weekend, and then I started seeing you more, and then just like, oh my God, I'm feeling things that I don't want to feel for you because I know I'm going to get hurt in the end. So I got that kind of feedback within the last couple of years. Now I started getting much more of that feedback to where I don't even have to ask them. You can feel it happening. You can intuit these types of things. But also to the point you made, to where most of my girls have a relationship with me like they don't with any other guys, or even girls for that matter. Girls will, she'll come over and be like, hey, I can feel something's off. What's on your mind? And if you're new to like Red Pill, you'd be like, oh, these are beta type conversations. But when you start getting good at game, you realize you have to have that soft side to you too. Like, hey, like Dana, you've been off lately. What's going on? Obviously something, is everything good at home? And then, oh, me and my dad have been getting into it. I was like, well, what's he been doing? And I was like, let me guess, your dad's a drinker, right? Yep. Let me guess, your dad and your mom are still together. Yep. Like your dad abuses your mom, right? And you're worried it's going to come to you. Oh my God, yeah, I don't know what to do, and I'm not making enough money. But you can have really deep conversations with them that they're not having these conversations with other guys that they've dated or they've hooked up with, because a lot of times the guys they date are just like dad, So so a lot of times, and I don't even have to poke or prod or even open the conversational topic. A lot of times my girls will just lay shit on me, and I'll tell her, I was like, you've never told anyone that before, right? And there's no one else you can have this conversation with, right? That's where I think they start falling into those deeper layers of love, to where even even my former main girl, we're cool now. She's like, hey, I didn't think I was going to fall in love with you. I thought I could I thought I could hang on. And so she'd pull away for a couple of weeks. And for a while, I'd put her in timeout for 2 weeks, 2 weeks like clockwork. She'd do something and I'd be like, all right, not going to talk to her 2 weeks. She'll reach back out. But that went on too long. It was like that on again, off again thing. I don't like that dynamic either. But it's to the point where we run in the same social circles now. So I'll run into her. I'm like, hey, how's everything going? How's everything doing? And she could be with a new guy, or she's with new girlfriends or whatever, but she doesn't have that depth of a relationship with them like she does with me. And I doubt she ever really will.
Yeah. This is what I was saying earlier about, you do so much self-development work. It really, really compounds, and it has negative consequences too, because then your standard for, your friends and your social circle really goes up, and it can be really like, it's funny to think about like the lower standards you used to have even for your male friends, right? When you were in high school, or maybe even just as early as 5-10 years ago, right? And then but yeah, it does become kind of like a skill. And then, like I said, for me at least, and there's also a certain sense of like, pretty much any girl would do it, but especially Latin women, if the guy is high value enough, right? Like see my friend's podcast, the Fresh and Fit podcast, they're like, oh, would you ever let your man do the one way, open relationship thing? They're like, hell no, bitch, I don't know what the fuck. I'm like, okay, what if your man was Drake? Then would you let him do it? They're like, well, yeah, I mean, if it was Drake, yeah, I guess, yeah, I'd let Drake do it, but come on, that's Drake. But why? He's still a man. It's just value. And the average guy watching this may be thinking, well, how do I have as much value as Drake? You'll never have as much, generic, far-reaching value as Drake does. But again, the heroin model, as I called it, you don't mention anything for like 3 months. You're playing it like it might be a traditional relationship, making them fall in love. And then by the time you propose that, you are like a Drake in her eyes. When you're talking about like relative value, right? Yeah. To her, as far as she's concerned, I don't know, maybe it's just arrogant of me to think, I don't know, I think I'm right, but I don't think any of my, serious relationships would have left me for, the hottest reggaeton singer, bad, whatever it is, they prefer little old Redbeard.
Well, the girls that are most into me, you'll notice this too, they start to think like you. So for me, it's like, I tell my girls all the time, I think the last few, even new girls I've had, that I have very strict or kind of what would be considered controversial viewpoints when spoken to an American audience in the English language. But when I'm in my Spanish brain, it is a very classist system. And I am very well aware, like I'm not at the upper echelon, but I'm in the upper echelons or the upper tiers, and I'm very aware of my status and my perceived status down here. And sometimes if a girl acts out of line, what they rarely do, but I'll have to remind her like, hey, I'm not those reggaetoneros that you're used to hanging out with. I'm not your fucking run of the mill club trash. You know, you need to act right around me. You can do that with your friends, but if you keep hanging out with those people, you're not going to go anywhere with me. We can just have fun. You can pop by the house. You'll never be seen in public with me. You'll never be on my social media, and we'll just keep it at that. But if you want to have a larger stake in my life, you need to start acting my class. And I'll literally tell girls in Spanish, I am classist. I used to say like, oh, I'm kind of a classist. Now I'm like, I am classist. So if you want to come to my, if you want to be with me, you got to rise to my level. I'm not going down to yours. And so that in that case, once they're bought in, obviously if I'm taking her out and I'm introducing her to my friend circle, she's been vetted thoroughly. So in that case, if the DJ, hey, come home with me. And I've actually had that happen in that Tampa story. I was with a former girl of mine in California. She happens to live in Florida. I was like, hey, I'm going to be in Tampa. She's like, oh, I'm going to be in town too, visiting an old girlfriend of mine. I'm like, well, you're an old girlfriend of mine, so let's hang out. And but she still bought into my frame enough to where we went out to a couple of these clubs. They're all the same. They're all cookie cutter clubs in the U.S. Again, a bunch of aggressive dudes that are by themselves. You know, it's always a sausage fest, clutching their beer to their chest, like trying to post up on you. He's like, dude, are you all right? Like, there's not a lot of people here. Like, you have space. Like, do you need some more space? Do you have spatial awareness issues? Are you like mentally challenged? What the fuck, dude? Like, what are you doing? In these types of environments, there was one guy, she's sitting on my lap, and he literally came up and then he's like, hey, if you want to go home with a real man, go with me. And I looked at my girl, I was like, hey, there's a real man right here. So like, I don't want to get in your way. You should definitely go with this real man. And I'm not only will I not stop you, I will close out the tab and I will pay for your Uber to go with him. And the guy kind of looked at me and the girl looked at me. She's like, ew, gross. She's like, Jaron, why are you talking to him? I'm like, hey, sorry, bro. Looks like she's taken. And then the guy just he lingered for a bit and his buddies came over like, hey man, you're being an asshole. Don't do that. And his buddies kind of pulled him away. But you'll hear like new to like red pill or dating topics guys would be like, oh, if my girl's if we go out, my girlfriend's talking to another guy, then, oh my God, we're done. I'm like, I encourage that. If I go to the bathroom and I come back and there's other guys at the table talking to her, I'll be like, hey, don't want to interrupt the conversation. You know, keep it going. It looks like you guys have some chemistry. And then I'll immediately go talk to another girl. And she, within 10 seconds, she's right behind me. No. I'm like, no. Keep talking to those guys because I want to talk to other girls. So you can do things like that. And the rules kind of change for you when you get to that point, I believe.
Yeah, that is a crazy story, dude. I can't believe that.
I can't believe the dude did it. I'm like, man, this guy's ballsy. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Well, especially these days. Like if that happened, 10 years ago or something, I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, drunk dudes, in Vegas, whatnot, like, 2013, 2014. But I thought, men had pretty much had their balls surgically removed by now.
And I'm being genuine when I say, if the guy was truly better, like if Drake came up and he's like, hey, do you want to go with the real man? I'm like, okay, you're a girl I used to bang 7 years ago. I haven't seen you since. And we're just hooking up for the weekend. Yeah, fucking go with Drake. Like do it. Cause I'm not going to see you again, like have at it. But it's never guys that are like anywhere near my level. I'm like, all right, dude, like congrats for taking your shot. But yeah, that's a ballsy move. I'm a pretty big guy. And, I was there with a friend group too. And they're all fitness guys and game guys also, like, like mine's kind of run together in a pack. But yeah, I thought that was quite the ballsy move, but I had to give the guy props for it. And for me, I'm at the point now, like in the game, like I just enjoy it. It's just so fun. So even if that girl, she's like, you know what, you are a real man, Jaron, you suck. Like here, like take care of my tab and I'm out of here with this guy. Like I'll find another girl. If I even want another girl, I'm out with my buddies, so I think when you start approaching it from that mindset, kind of like whatever happens, it's fun. Or I had a girl that's supposed to come over. I think the stream's running kind of long. She was supposed to come over like during the duration of the stream and then flaked on me. And then for me, I'm at the point when a girl flakes, I'm like, fuck yeah, my night is wide open. It's just me. It's me, myself, and I. What am I going to do? My whole night's open. I can do whatever I want. Everything's done for the day. Like I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you get to that point where it's like your dick gets a night off almost. You're like, okay, thank God. Yeah. Let my balls, regenerate a little bit.
Or I almost encourage girls to flake. So what I used to consider pre-flake indicators, hey, you know what? I'm still at work. It might be a little later. Like, okay, there's a good chance she'll still come through, but Lord knows what time. It'll probably be past my bedtime. So I'll just like, hey, you know what? Don't sweat it. Let me know when it's a better time for you. Make sure you take care of what needs to get taken care of. Work gets priority, and hit me up when you're free. And then so like if I see a pre-flake indicator, I'll almost encourage her to flake. Like, oh, hey, I might be there a little late, but I really want to see you. I'm looking forward to it, but I don't know when I'm going to get out of work. Yeah, go ahead and take care of that. Let's just leave it for the weekend. When we're both 100% free. And then I'm like, whew, what a relief. I don't have to do another cardio session today.
You ever double or triple book dates for the same night?
I do, but I stagger them. So I'll do 3-hour blocks, and I work for myself, so I have creative time blocks. So an average day would be like I get up early, so all of my calls and all my work is done in the morning. I'll go to the gym around midday. So usually 2 or 3 is when like I'm technically free. So I'll book for like 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. So that way, if the 3 o'clock falls through, guess what? I'll just get a jump on my work. If 3 o'clock comes through and she's really cool, and this rarely happens. Every now and then there's a perfect storm to where all the girls want to come through. So then you have to do the logistics of one leaves in an Uber, but then you order another Uber. And like at some point you can see them like literally cross paths if you're pushing it real close. But no, I've actually been on a flake streak lately. This whole week I've had a lot of flakes, but I've had more new girls than I normally do. So these are girls that weren't scheduled. They're girls that match me on the app. And then like, hey, I'm free in the moment. Can I come over? That's because yesterday was a holiday here, and the day before that was a holiday here. So none of these girls are working. They're bored. Everyone's out of town because a lot of people aren't from Mexico City who live in Mexico City. Same as U.S. major cities. So everyone is back in their little pueblos. There's not a lot going on these few days. So I've had way more flakes because of the holidays, but I've had new girls in the moment, instant match, and then in an Uber within less than an hour this week as well. So, but there's also weeks where all of them come through, and that's tough. You're like, oh shit, like none of them are flaking.
Yeah.
They're all wanting to come through.
I've studied this down to a science, this whole flaking thing, because when I first came to Brazil, I kind of had when I first came to Brazil, I was just doing a 3-month thing here because I actually was still living in Medellin at the time, but I ran out of visa days. Wouldn't you know it? Surprise, surprise. The retarded lawyers, messed up my visa. So when I first came to Brazil, shocker, right?
That's right. I've dealt with a lot of Colombians. I know exactly what you're saying. It is a whole. There are levels of stupid.
So unburdened.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when I first came to Brazil, I was getting flaked on a lot. And I had it on easy mode. Like I said, living in Medellin, I was also kind of, famous there. I had the parties there. I was doing a lot of like warm outreach on Instagram to girls that had heard about me. I became to the point where I was like, a B-list celebrity in that city. But I'm out in Brazil and I'm starting from like, scratch all over again. I'm just like a nobody like everybody else. And I'm like, damn, like it's been 3 weeks and I haven't been on a date yet. I've been matching with girls. I've been texting back and forth with girls, and I'm sending some voice notes back and forth, but I'm like not going on dates. What's the issue? And one thing that solved it was we talked about, triple booking dates, right? You have, but I wouldn't even do it like that staggered. I would have like, dude, mine would be like 7:30, 8:30, 9 o'clock or something like that. Like I was like ruthless with it. I'd have girls like that did all their makeup, they did their hair, they're smelling nice. Like, oh, I'm 1 foot out the door to, coming to meet you. And then boom, just cancel on them. And the reason I didn't feel bad is because they could probably count on one hand the number of times that like they've been legitimately flaked on by a guy. For me, it's like, she's had like 4 or 5 her whole life. I've had 4 or 5 this week. So number one, I never felt bad. But now I don't even really double book. Like if I was in a new city, if I was like a couple days in Rio, you better believe I would double book just because I wouldn't want to go to Rio for 4 or 5 days and say I didn't go on any dates because I got 2 super hot chicks lined up and I got flaked twice and did nothing for 4 days. So what I do now is I will not even accept a first date with a chick unless I do a video call. Bro, I cannot tell you how much video calls has saved my life because if she wasn't getting on the video call, 0 chance she was going to show up on a date anyway because the video call is like, lower anxiety.
Higher
it's
investment.
Yeah, exactly. The date's
higher investment. Yeah.
The date's higher investment. Yeah. And then number 2, the video call is the first date. I can see, let's say I can experience her chemistry, her vibe.
Yep.
Is she boring? Is she a weirdo? Is she an SJW? Is she gonna throw, feminist theory my way out of left field? Is she gonna give off, gold digger vibes and stuff? And not only, if I can be funny, charismatic, interesting on the video call, not only do I have an 80% chance secure, she's not going to flake, but I also, maybe I want to flake now, right? Maybe I didn't like her personality, or maybe I saw what she really looks like without the filters. That's another thing. They can put filters on video call. It's kind of on WhatsApp and Instagram, you can put filters on, but you could ask them to turn the filters off. And even sometimes you can kind of see, how they look. So, man, I can't say enough about video.
I get reverse catfished here more than actual catfished, to where she's maybe on the cusp of like my minimal attraction standards. Like, okay, yeah, she'll do, she's not getting me super excited, but like, yeah, it's kind of a quiet night. There's not much going on. I wouldn't mind getting laid. And then she gets on a call, she shows up and like, oh my God, you're 2 SMV points higher than I thought you were. Like, oh, okay. So that happens to me way more than the actual catfish. I was going to ask you too, I'm just getting over this. Do you feel bad about flaking on girls? Because I'm at the point now where I have to turn down more girls than I say yes to. And at first I felt really bad, but then I realized, kind of to the inverse of your point, to where, how many guys she's probably flaked on and how few guys have flaked on her. So I realized even a couple of weeks ago, there's a girl I flaked on. I felt kind of bad. And then she gave me there's 2 girls that week. She's like, what kind of class are you? What kind of man are you? Who the hell does that? I can't believe this. I'm like, how many Mexican girls have flaked on me? It's like, it's just a part of who they are.
Very low self-awareness.
Yeah, it's like I almost expect to always be flaked on. So like, what are you talking about? But it's funny, the next day when I hit him up, hey, I'm actually free tonight. What are you doing? Oh, I'm just getting off work. Cool, send me your address. I'll send you an Uber. Then they come right over, which is quite funny. So I'm starting to feel, I'm working on feeling less bad about flaking on them. And again, there's some nights I'm just like, I'm starting to experience dating how I think a lot of girls do, which gives you a lot of insight to where there's so many options to where, okay, when I set the date a week ago, I was really excited about it because I was actively on the dating app. I was looking through there, like starting to build that fantasy in my head of what it'll be like to be with her. But now I've got other stuff going on. Other things have come up. And now that it's like time to meet up, I'm not necessarily in that same headspace. I'm kind of, take it or leave it, or just kind of indifferent. Just, whatever. She comes through. And if not, no. And then there's some nights I'm just not in the mood. I'm like, I'm kind of tired and I have a big day tomorrow and I don't want to entertain.
The first dates are exhausting, man.
Yeah.
It's such an output of energy.
It's the same questions. Where are you from? Do you like Mexico? How long did it take you to learn Spanish? How many brothers and sisters do you have? What was your first job? What did you study? And you have all the answers canned, but a lot of times I was going to mention this when you mentioned like the double or triple booking. Say I triple book and all the girls flake. I'm like, oh, thank God. But I do want to get laid. Then I'll hit up a girl here in the neighborhood who I've been seeing on and off for months, years. And a lot of my favorite girls are the ones that logistically it works out to where they work a high visibility or high level job, like a doctor, lawyer, some kind of whatever, business owner, manager, what have you. And they work long hours here. So let's say my 3 p.m., my 6 p.m., and my 9 p.m. I'll flake. Well, there's girls I know that like they work long hours and they're here local in the neighborhood. I can hit them up at 8. I'm like, hey, late night at the office. Like, oh my God, yeah, I can't wait to get out of here. I was like, well, hey, let me, come spend a relaxing night with me. Or, oh, it's been a hellish week at work. Oh, let me take your mind off of it tonight. And they're girls I've already done that with multiple times. And with them, I set the expectation too. I work all the fucking time. If I'm not at the gym playing guitar or banging chicks, I am working, because when those time blocks free up, like, okay, now I can get a jump on my work for those days where all the girls do want to come through. So it's really, it's a very delicate time balance type thing, and scheduling has to be down pat. So a lot of times I call them my neighborhood girls. Sometimes those are my favorite girls. They're not necessarily like, they don't get me the most excited. They're not necessarily the hottest, but their girls are just cool. They're low maintenance, low energy. They fuck real good, and they're just cool to hang out with.
I have a question for you, and then I'll tell you my philosophy.
All right.
I'm assuming you have a pretty strict scale. Like what you qualify as a 7, most guys back home would be like on their knees begging for her, calling her like a goddess, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
You have a pretty strict scale. Yeah. So we're probably have both a pretty strict scale. What is the minimum quality for like, you'll say, okay, I'll text this girl, go on a date with her, invest my time with her, you know, to date her, bang her, you know, what is it?
I'll usually, it depends on the girl. I can go down to a 6 if she's really cool. I'm into music too. So if she's like, hey, I'm a world-class pianist and I'm in the music scene and I want to come over and sing with you and let's record a duet. Okay. Yeah. You get to come over and obviously we're going to bang. Because when you sing with a girl, like that's like deeper emotional. Yeah, exactly. Normally I prefer 7 or 8s. 9s, you'll hear other content creators. It's like, oh, guys say that you can't get 9s because they're higher maintenance. Like there are smart 9s, there are cool 9s, but it usually is a little more investment from my end. And I work so much that I'd rather just chill. So mine are usually 7 or 8, but I do add the addendum. A lot of guys lie about this, just like guys in the fitness space lie about not being on gear. I'm on TRT. I take HGH. I sprinkle Anavar on top of it if I want to get like 3D fucking 6-pack abs for a photo shoot. I'm always open about that. A lot of guys will never admit this. Every now and then, and if my roommate's watching, I know he's in there laughing. Every now and then I want just like a dirty, low tier, just trash chick. like a chick where I'm embarrassed for the security guard to see me walk her past. So I'll make her like leave her ID and sign the registry and then like bring herself up to my house in hopes that they think she's like an Uber Eats driver. So it's once in a blue moon. It's not often.
A rappy, like, I know on this rappy uniform before you come inside.
I know guys will take this like Jaron only bangs all trash or he padded his lay count. 90% of them are all trash. No. Most of them are 7s and 8s. Back in Rich Cooper's days, I used to say there are 6 7s and 8s. The 6s, she has to be super cool and bring something else to the table. A lot of girls like, hey, I work in a spa. Is like, oh, can you do like can you do a massage? I don't know, descontracturante, like a sports massage, like where she really gets in there and actually knows how to do like decontracturing massage. I don't know the English word for that one, but like, hey, like, yeah. Or if she like works in the medical field or something and she's real tired, but she's real cool and she can like hook me up with something, or like if I get something else out of it, I'll go down to a 6. But every now and then, and I think this year I've only had one this year where like she was disgusting looking. And when she came here, but like that's kind of how I got off. Like because you can almost like borderline abuse these chicks too. And that's not what it means. Like I'm not a fucking woman hater or man beater or any shit like that. But ones you're like, all right, like this girl, like, yeah, let's do it. I don't know why. Every now and then it's just like I'm in the fitness space. So I eat clean 80-90% of the time. Every now and then I want a whole pizza and a box of donuts. I always regret it. Like I'm halfway through it. I'm like, I'm not even hungry for this pizza. It's fucking disgusting from a macronutrition standpoint. But every now and then, and it's very rare, once every few months, I'll get that hankering. So it's kind of like that with chicks too. I was like, all right. And she still has to have like big tits, nice ass. Maybe her face isn't quite there. Maybe she's like totally tatted up or looks like she's from a lower caste. But every now and then I like those coming through. So I'm curious what your answer is.
Yeah, my answer is this, bro, is like, just from where I'm sitting at now, if she's not at least like a 7.5, maybe, first of all, they have to look like a 9 on Instagram. I don't know how it is in Mexico, I guess, because you're saying you get reverse catfished. In Brazil,
a lot of them look hotter in real life than Instagram.
Yeah, they're too good with the filters and the AI and the angle. So she's got to look like a fucking rocket on the app. So she's not looking, super fire on the apps.
Do they do this in Brazil to where all their photos, they look more European, for lack of a better word, and then you show up and you're like, oh, like your name has 9 consonants and no vowels, and you're from a place where like I would never go?
No, not necessarily. So my type is like a Pocahontas with more curves. I like the traditional. So when it comes to indigenous women, there's 2 types. There's the one that put, all the fat and the weight on like their thighs and their butt and their boobs. And
the squatty senora. Yeah.
I've never heard that, but sure. Yeah. And then there's one with like my friend coined the term potato body. They look like,
that's what I mean by squatty senora. Like looks like my cleaning lady.
Yeah.
The other day, my cleaning lady was the last earthquake we had, my cleaning lady was here, and she's like, oh my god, oh, that was one of the big ones, and I said, yeah, man, like what was the one in '86 like? Like I imagine that was terrifying. She's like, oh, I wasn't born. She's like, I was born in like the '90s. Like I thought she was older than me because she has that potato body, like you said.
Yeah.
Or you do get some real cute indigenous ones. Some of them here look almost like they're Asian.
Yeah,
Like
not so much in Mexico. The Mexican indigenous is more potato body like. I'm sure there's actually I think girls from what's that city? Puerto Vallarta. It's like really cartel run now, but it used to be really good.
Acapulco.
Acapulco,
like that.
That's what I'm thinking of. Acapulco. Yeah, it used to be.
Yeah, that city's
really
ran the fuck down.
Now it's like cartel controlled. Yeah, that's what Acapulco. I think, from my knowledge, from my empirical research, a lot of girls from Acapulco have been the more indigenous with a good body. But anyway, where I'm going with this is this: if they're not looking like an 8.5, 9 on Instagram, I know that they're going to be. I'm expecting them to go at least 1 and 1.5 points down. And I just fired my virtual assistant. We were talking about this earlier. I have a woman in the Philippines. Well, I had a woman in the Philippines from my Instagram logged in, follow girls from my account. And then I would message the ones that would follow me back. We'd keep them all in a CRM, and she would unfollow the ones that didn't follow me, et cetera. And I'm like, I have not been, we had like meetings and meetings. And like, I am not like getting the hot chicks. And I got nerdy with it. I had like a girl's hotness quiz that I made with Google Forms for her to really understand what my type is. I think I'm just going to go with a man next time. It was probably a mistake to hire a woman for a man's job. But anyway, for the effort that there were going to be, and then for the fact that, because here's the thing, 8s and 9s are a lot more difficult, but they're not necessarily always more effort. Like sometimes you can just match a girl, hit it off, flirt with them, you talk, they flirt back. We talked about, the 3, they're responding quickly, they're giving thoughtful answers, and they're also asking you questions. I don't know if we talked about that actually, but that's something I talked about.
We didn't, but I talk about that too. I use different terms. I say, does she have high attraction for you, and is she available? Now, it doesn't matter if it's work or family stuff or a crazy schedule. Is she available to actually see you? And then
they're attracted to make themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Exactly that. So, those two kind of go hand in hand.
6.5. When you get down to like below 5s, they become like tremendously like easy. But I can't even, dude. It doesn't even feel good. If I'm to fuck a 5 now,
if they get too low though, it becomes harder. Like a 4 is as hard as a 9 because they know you're just using them for a quick piece of ass, and they have no shot with you. And sometimes I've noticed, even in like U.S. cities, sometimes I got to a point in my game development to where you nailed it. You nailed it on the head earlier, to where like they're not the most attractive women per capita in Mexico City. So if a girl comes in like from Colombia, Venezuela, Brazil, Argentina, France, Germany, Norway, wherever, and she matches me on Tinder and she's a 9, then it's like it's fast track because I know that there's no male competition either. So it's like we recognize our own, like, hey, we're both perceived really high SMB here, and it just becomes super easy. Whereas if I start dipping a 6 or below, I actually have a harder time because like she knows she's not gonna be my girlfriend.
Then she's gonna like hit you with, why do you really like me and stuff. So dude, if I was to go down and fuck like let's say I'm like really into some chick, and I wish I could show an example here. Maybe I'll have one at the ready next time, but I can show you girls that are 9s on Instagram that I would tell you are, 6s in real life. And you'd be like, dude, there's no way. Like I'm looking at it. It doesn't look like there's a filter. It doesn't. I'm like, dude, just trust me. Like she was a 6 in real life, but you're already there. You bang them, dude. Maybe it feels good like the first time. If I bang them, especially a second or third time over the course of weeks, or sometimes even the same night, whatever it is, I almost feel like I'm fucking with somebody else's dick. Like I'm on top of them and I'm fucking them, but it's almost like my dick is made of plastic. Like there's no feeling.
I have the same thing. I disassociate. I had a girl the other night, reverse catfish, kind of hippy dippy. I think I would have put her at like a 6'5" or 7, but she was but she was a pianist and into music, and so I was like, so she suggested, she's like, hey, I'll come over, and then like she's like, hey, I'll come over. She wanted to get a coffee first, which I normally never do. They're usually straight to the house, but we can get a coffee first. Had a conversation. She's real kind of reserved. It took a while for her to open up to me. Came back to the house, played some music together, and then still took a while for her to open up to me. But had got out of the Uber and like beautiful face,
Oh,
still
wow.
dressed kind of like a hippie, beautiful face. Couldn't tell that she had a rocking body underneath. Eventually, it took me 3 hours to get the first lay. Usually, it's like near immediate when it comes straight to the house. So like, all right, put some time in. But woke up in the morning, laying on top of me naked, like just smiling ear to ear, just just brightness coming out of her eyes. Like she had a good time with me. But looked at her and was like, oh my god, she's pretty. And at one point, I think that morning my roommate walked past, and then after he's like, oh my god, she's beautiful. It's like, yeah, I know, right? And I showed him her Instagram, and on her Instagram she looked kind of like a hippie type girl, but in the flesh, god, she was gorgeous. But with that one, oh man, I was able to go multiple times. Like I felt good about that. I was in it, like, man, this girl's beautiful, and we sang together and we're vibing. And I know she's not super easy because I benchmark against myself. So you hear guys say like, oh, she's easy, she put out on the first date. I'm like, all of my girls put out on the first date. So that doesn't mean she's easy. Like for me, like that's the expected. That's what they do. Yeah, exactly. So, but for this one, I'm like, oh my god, I was like actually vibing this girl. Whereas, like you said it perfectly, because I'll be in my head. I'm like literally thinking about like, oh, when's my next call? Oh, did I send that email to so and so? What am I doing for dinner tonight? What's my macronutrient split look like? And like, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh yeah, my dick's inside of a chick. like let's finish up.
I every time that I get that little voice in my head, because we're similar age, I'm 36. Maybe you've had these thoughts at some points too, but every time I'm just kind of like, oh gosh, maybe I'm, finally hitting the wall, with my sex drive. Like, I couldn't really get it up that much the second time, and I got it up, but like I was kind of half hard, and I went soft when I put the condom on the first time.
It's flying at half mast.
Yeah. And then I'm like damn near like, like pushing rope, at the end, and then I finish off, and I'm just like, I feel like icky. I'm like, damn, like I got 36. I guess it's time for testosterone, or whatever I need to, start taking Cialis.
And the stunner comes through, and you're ready. Yeah. You're like, whoa!
And then you
barely penetrate, and you're like, oh, am I gonna come too fast?
Yeah,
that's never a problem for me. Yeah.
Then you get an actually hot chick, some new pussy, and a really hot chick, and you're like, oh, that's what it was.
It's like she smells good, she looks good, she tastes good. Like, oh my god, yeah.
I think we had a couple new questions, then we gotta wrap up.
Let's do it. Yeah, we're going kind of long. I gotta get dinner at some point. Can you talk more about that to judge attraction?
I don't really understand what you meant by that. So I think physical attraction, like what my scale is, or
Amir, I know it's been a bit since you asked that question, but if you're still here, can you clarify a bit? I think we were talking about in terms of, you asked.
Can we do this? Sorry to cut you off. Maybe he's going to clarify that. There's another question before that we can get to.
Let's do that. So I think it was like your lowest number. Question, guys. Live in LA, have a bunch of matches with girls in TJ via Bumble. I speak Spanish, been going to Mexico gang of times or ton of times. How do I guarantee the girls don't flake for a short 2 to 3 day trip there?
Well, do
you have any insight on that one?
Yeah, video call those bitches, like I just said.
That was a good suggestion.
Literally, so I have like a whole guide, shout out to myself. I call it like the flake destroyer, like how to eliminate first date flaking. It's like a 20-minute YouTube video that I give away for free. But the long and short of it is, a lot of voice messages, analyzing their interest level by the big three, which is how quickly do they respond, how much thoughtfulness do they put into their responses, and are they also asking you questions? So
that was his clarifying question too. Her degree of attraction towards you. How do you judge that? And I think that's a great way.
So to wrap up this one though, you're sending a lot of voice messages. You are judging her interest level in you. And then the big one is a video call, bro. If you can be charismatic and interesting and have her laughing her ass off. And then here's another key for video calls too. I like to do minimum about 15 minutes, ideal length 25 to 30 minutes. And then I call it like the the roller coaster technique. I don't know what I call it. Something to do with roller coaster. I forget what I call it, the roller coaster framework. But it basically means right when it's at the peak, she's like, no, stop. You're so funny. I can't breathe. Oh my God, I've never heard it. Barack Obama impression like that, whatever it is, right? Yeah. Hey, babe.
Hey, gotta go. See you soon.
And they're like, no, wait. Kind of like a boiling frog thing. Like she feels the change of emotions more than like her emotions per se. It's the change of emotions. And then, video call these hoes, judge their interest levels. And then you can also just double and triple book. And then some bitches may get flaked on. But dude, if you're only there for 2 or 3 days, you have to be going on dates. So overbook, do video calls, and you'll be good.
Yeah, and I lived in San Diego for almost a decade. Went to TJ all the time. No, it's not just a red light district. In fact, most people in TJ don't even go near there. They have some really good cuisine and stuff. So I'd say
Yeah,
now the
the
fact
salad
that
was
she's not
amazing.
yeah, Zona Rio has amazing cuisine in TJ. So I'm saying if you're going to TJ, I always make a rule. I don't take trips explicitly for a girl. So kind of mentally make that delineation that like, okay, you're going to TJ regardless. Even if she does flake, have other girls lined up that you're talking to, and have some fun stuff. Spend a day in a what is it, Puerto Nuevo, which is a lobster fishing town. Take a trip down to Ensenada. If you have a nice card, take the Quota, which is the Mexican toll road. There's no one on there, and there's literally no speed limit. If you do come across a federale, they're going to try to race you. Plan a Baja California trip for you, and then if she shows up, great. You can take her to all this fun stuff. I like going to Las Pampas in TJ. Les Balañas, my good breakfast place in TJ, along Zona Rio there. Go to a Cholos game. Cholos the name of the soccer team. That's not a racial thing. I've had idiots in the comments say that before. Can't believe you said Cholo. I'm like, that's the name of their fucking soccer team. It's Cholo Escuincle, which is the Aztec dog. So go to a Cholos game. There's a lot of cool stuff to do in TJ and a lot of stuff to do in Baja California. So plan a trip for you. And then if she does show up, that's awesome. Now you have a plus one. If not, have another girl or two that you're kind of talking to and then hit her up. Hey, by the way, I just found out I have to go to TJ this weekend. Are you free? If she shows high level of attraction, which we just got into how to do that, then do that. If she is able to travel to the US side, I know LA is a little further from TJ. Living in San Diego from TJ, like there's a good time if she has a US visa, like she'll come across the border at some point to do shopping or visit family or what have you. Then meet her up on your turf. But for me, I like TJ in general. And it sounds like you do speak Spanish that if you do go to TJ and she flakes on you, go out in TJ. Like you're there. You can meet other girls. It's one thing to meet them on the internet, but in TJ, you can meet. There's beautiful, normal girls from all over the country who aren't sex workers, who aren't green card chasers, who aren't gold diggers. It's a major city. I think there's 2 or 3 million people in TJ. So there's a lot to do there. Go down, have a good time, and hopefully she does show up. And if not, either be talking to girls that you can have as backup plans or just go out and meet girls there. Even places that are notoriously shitty like Las Pampas, it's kind of like a narco, like low class bar. I've gone to Las Pampas a couple of times just because it's just kind of fun. And it's gotten to the place. There's a neighborhood here in Mexico City called Tepito. It's like notoriously a dangerous and bad neighborhood. It's now a tourist attraction because it's such a bad neighborhood to where it's like starting to become not a bad neighborhood. So obviously, if you speak Spanish, I'm sure you also know how to navigate the culture. I make a distinction. You can be proficient in the language, but not know the cultural P's and Q's. So make sure you have that degree of fluency, not only in the language, but the culture as well. But go down to TJ and have a good time. And again, hopefully she doesn't flake, but if she does flake, well, now you have 2 or 3 days where you can do cool shit in TJ and meet other cool people. And if you need to, yeah, I don't know why the thing's not showing up on my Instagram at Jaren Scott, no space, JarenScott. Hit me up there. I can give you more TJ recommendations. I actually like TJ. I think it's a cool city. But if you're going in the red light district or whatever, you're gonna have a different experience. I'm not a big drinker, not a big partier. I'm definitely not into pay for play, but I've met some really cool chicks in TJ who are actually quite attractive too. Remember, it is a city along the world's largest border crossing. So if it weren't for the U.S. being adjacent to it, Tijuana wouldn't exist. From where I'm sitting in the seat of the Mexican Republic, TJ is way out there. It's on the outskirts of the Mexican Republic. It only exists because San Diego's right there. And then Ensenada has a deep water port. It's the only reason that town exists. So you get girls from all over the world in TJ, and you can meet some real cool ones. Let's see. Yeah, did you have a follow-up for that?
Oh, no, about the TJ thing. No, I mean, I already answered about like getting them on the video call and doing multiple like double booking.
Yeah, I think
I
that's
can,
a
I
good
can go
one.
in. I can go to Amir's question and then I got to bounce out of here. But the
Yep.
quick answer for Amir, how to judge that a girl is into you, how attracted she is. It's very simple. How compliant is she?
Yep.
If like I said, we talked about, in the initial stages when it's like, a lot of texting and stuff, does she reply quickly? Does she put a lot of thoughtfulness into her responses? And does she also ask you questions? Those are the three. But beyond that, when it comes to dating and stuff, it's if she wants to go to take, a girls trip to Miami with her friends and you say, absolutely not. Does she go, okay, you're right. That is stupid. I won't do that because you asked me not to. I just, does she listen to you? Is she compliant to things? If you say, I don't want you to wear that dress. I want you to wear this one. Okay, daddy. Like whatever you say, like the more compliant she is, the more
They'll ask a
attraction
lot
she
of
has.
times. Like even
Yeah.
I had a girl come over last night. Same thing, like Tinder match or whatever. Lived in the neighborhood, and then okay, give me a second to get ready. I'm like, hey, it's gonna just like be hamada. It's gonna be like a PJ night because it was kind of late when she matched me. I was ready to go to bed. It was like 10 o'clock, but she was here immediately. She wore a dress, like a cocktail dress. I'm like, all right, cool, like just to hang out and hook up at my house. So those are all things of attraction. And then Amir's actually one of my guys. So he's from a sales and marketing background. Think of it in sales and marketing terms. For example, you're building like a funnel or like a lead gen engine. It's the equivalent to, okay, you're looking at CRM and then you have, okay, well, this person like watched a webinar and then gave me like a basic like first name, last name, email. So they're on my email list. Like, yeah, they open a newsletter every now and then. They've clicked through a couple of articles, but that's about it. And you're trying to determine who to call first or who to prioritize as a sales lead. Then there's one, okay, same thing, came through like maybe a paid ad, first name, last name, email, subscribe to the newsletter, opens every newsletter, reads every article, has downloaded ebooks, case studies, white paper, has filled out multiple lead forms. They filled out not only the product lead form, but the general lead form, the ad specific lead form. And then they even went to the like in the footer and filled out the contact us form saying, hey, Amir, I saw your offer and I'm ready to buy. How do I get in contact with you? Where do I pay? Ideally, for this example, you should have the payment infrastructure set up too, but you're comparing two leads. Which one are you going to give focus to as a salesperson? And then progressively getting more information. You know that they're high net worth, they fit your avatar, they're ready to do business with you, they're the client you want to do business with, and you have all these buying or these indicators that like, wow, this lead score is fire hot. And this other one just kind of, yeah, they're kind of a passive fan, but I don't know, I can't really gauge their buying temperature yet. That's kind of how I look at it. So an example I use, I worked in El Salvador for a year, had a girl from Guatemala. She was there on like some human rights watch or whatever when Bukele took power. Lighter skin, real pretty girl. I was busy working, so I log into Tinder. Hey, I see you're in San Benito. We're less than a kilometer away. What are you doing tonight? It's my birthday. I want to meet you. Go over to Instagram. Hey, what's your WhatsApp? I want to meet you. I'm free tonight. Where are you? I think we're located close to each other. I was busy, so I'm looking at all my inbound DMs on Tinder and on Instagram and see, okay, she took the step and went through to Instagram. She probably wants to meet me. So dropped her my WhatsApp and said, what hotel are you in? Oh, I actually have an apartment behind this international hostel. What hotel are you in? I'm in the Presidential Sheraton. Okay, cool. You're literally 2 buildings away from me. And then she said, I'm in the lobby. She's like, it's my birthday. I'm looking for something to do. It's happy hour in the lobby. Come by the hotel. Drinks are on me. Because she's from like a high net worth Guatemalan, whatever family. Like, all right, cool. Went to the lobby, instantly went up to her room and like fucking gave her a birthday present of her life. Again, that goes back to some of the things I say in Mexico and El Salvador. People are definitely not attractive. And there were no foreigners there at that time. It was before Bukele took power. It was still very dangerous. There were no foreigners there at all. It was just me. So that indicated to me, oh, she's probably interested, versus the girl that we've been texting back and forth for a few months, and then she says that she's going to come through, and then she always flakes at the last minute, versus the girl, hey, I'm going to follow you on Instagram. Here's my number. Contact me. Goes to Instagram. Hey, we're less than a kilometer away. What are you doing tonight? I'm in the hotel bar. I really want to see you. It's my birthday. Please text me. Like, okay, so which two between those two scenarios? So that's kind of how I gauge attraction on the front end of the equation. If you're just getting her to that initial hookup, and then going back to Casey, what you said, like if it's a long-term, like more kind of emotionally invested relationship, hey, I'm thinking about going on a girls trip to Miami. I was like, you know what? I don't date girls who do that type of stuff. Oh, okay. Yeah, I figured. I just wanted to see, but I'm not really interested in going anyways. I'd rather do something with you instead. You can kind of tell her attraction level there too, if that makes sense. I know it's a long-winded answer, Casey. I know we've been going on for 2 hours and 30 minutes now. I like to usually cap these in an hour, but it's a fantastic conversation. I like these organically occurring conversations. Feel free to take clips and reels and share and tag or do whatever. Even guys in my audience, if you want to repurpose this content, get us out there. That's fantastic. I definitely encourage that. And then Casey, if you have any final thoughts, any last points you want to cover, or let people know where they can find you, what you got going on, and what next steps can be for them.
Sure. So Red Beard Rants is all my socials, or Red Beard Rants 1. Instagram is Red Beard Rants 1. YouTube is just Red Beard Rants. But if you type in Red Beard Rants, I don't think there's anybody else who's stolen my name yet. So I should be the only one that comes up. I'm on YouTube and Instagram. I'm a little bit on TikTok. And in case it wasn't clear, if you guys missed the beginning, my whole thing is I teach and build for guys. I'd actually get to, I'll show this real quick for 2 seconds if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Share my screen.
Yeah, you should be able to share your screen.
Cool. So this is an example of one I built for a guy. I'll go through this super quick because I got to get going and be respectful of time. But as we're looking at this guy's profile, I mean, what words come to mind? Successful, fun lifestyle, good network, maybe intelligent, confident that he can own and control a seminar room like that. Good friends, hanging out luxurious places. It basically looks like James fucking Bond. So first step is I build guys a high status social media profile that looks like this. I took every single one of these photos for him. And then we get him set up with an online dating virtual assistant who can find all these bitches, and you basically wake up every single day with matches on your dating apps and girls that have followed you on Instagram. So that's what I do for guys. That's my thing. And yes, thank you, Rich. My hair transplant is getting there. Probably another 2 months before it's fully grown in, but we'll see.
That's awesome. I thought I was receding at one point and then realized it's just kind of thinning. I used to have like Afro type hairs, so it's just kind of my face shape. But I did do the platement where they put it in the microdermabrasion and inject it in there. That seemed to work well for me. Like I didn't have. It looks like yours was actually receding. Mine started thinning, but it didn't start receding. But now it's.
I was like, you guys can see, right? Like I was 100.
Yeah, it's hard to fill in. Yeah,
to move my finger because it's going backwards in a mirror image, so it's really hard for me to move my finger along this
line.
I know
stuff.
You can clearly see where it's a lot lighter here. It was like this. It was like white, shiny bald.
Yeah, QB for the where to go and TJ. Rosarito Papas and Beer is good. They always have events too. So like follow their Instagrams. We can do a whole other Instagram thing in these cities. Find out who like the promoters are and the organizers and like the event production type groups. Follow them and they'll put all sorts of stuff out there. So a lot of times, yeah, it can be a good place, but on the wrong night, it's not a good place. Or it could be kind of a place there's not much going on. Here they do a lot of rooftop parties at like some of the fancier hotels. If I go on a Thursday night, okay, they'll have some people wanting to watch the sunset from the rooftop, but it's not like a happening place. But when a private event production company comes and they bring like good talent and they bring models and they have the red carpet and the step and repeat and photographers and there's a scene or a buzz created around it, same place, same venue, but completely different experience. So I'd recommend that too. Yeah, I used to like going to Alebrije. Alebrije I've done, and that's not pay for play. So I've pulled like some really nice women from Mexicali. Mexicali is like an hour and a half, 2 hour drive away. Very pretty girls in Mexicali. I've pulled a couple girls from Mexicali usually at Alebrije, so that's a good place too. And then yeah, guys, if you want more stuff, just hit me up on Instagram. I don't know why the fucking thing's not showing up on the screen. At Jaron Scott or at Gringo Guides, ask me for TJ tips or Mexico tips. Same thing. Hit up Casey Red Beard Rants for any of the topics he covers. I cover international dating topics too, Spanish stuff, specifically if you want to come and like be legal in Mexico, start a business here, move a business here. I help guys with that. And then to a lesser degree, I was significantly overweight for years and years, and I'm very much not overweight now. So I help guys. I wouldn't call myself a fitness guy, but if you have 100 pounds to lose, then there's like some mindset things you have to go through. I can help guys do that as well. So any questions at all, though, if you want to collaborate, reach out, have any questions, want to know what I'm up to, at Jaron Scott on Instagram, and be sure to reach out to Casey as well. And if I do any clips or reels, I'll have my editor put that on there with both of our Instagrams because it usually shows up on this thing. It hasn't for my last 2 streams. So, all right, that being said and done, guys, I want to thank you all for stopping on by. And until next time, I shall bid you all farewell.